is going to have to be the quote-unquote religion of tomorrow. If it isn't, you're fucked. Totally and absolutely.
I get tired of water and shit. That gets old pretty fast. You got a fucking 100-foot hose walking around the yard, try to make sure everything gets touched, everything gets taken care of. So I'm always happy for the rain, man. Especially here too, because where we at, the house is a little bit higher. We definitely in the flood zone. All the swampy kind of shit in the back. So when it rains, that swamp water kind of comes creeping up on the back of the property. But luckily, it's only that part. But I've noticed that when it floods like that, it seeps and goes down into the soil and where we mulch that and everything. So it holds a lot of moisture back there. And I planted a whole row just about of banana trees across the back, almost near the back property line type shit where the fences are. And those trees are the healthiest, most abundantly growing trees, banana trees that I have on the property because they love the moisture. So they produce like crazy, bro. I'm like giving my neighbors bananas. We're eating them. We're making banana breads. Whatever we don't get goes to the chickens and the worms. They love it. The fucking rabbits eat them. Everybody's eating bananas around here.
How long does it take for a banana tree to grow?
Usually about a year. If you take a baby cutting, not cutting pups, they call them because they spread by root mass. So
Mhm.
young banana trees just come sprouting up out of the ground around the main one. So the main one's the mama. The pups come up, and if you cut that one off from the mama and plant it someplace else, usually about a year. If you do it the right time of year, because it needs like a whole year to produce before the cold season hits. So if you do it right before spring, you might get bananas on it the following year before it starts getting cold.
Mm. Okay.
So about a year. And another crazy thing that I didn't learn until I got bananas is that that main banana tree will only produce fruit one time in its life. So the pups that come up are the ones that replace it. So the big tree will fruit, and it'll be 4 or 5 young ones coming up around it. After you harvest the fruit from the big tree, you chop that shit down, and I leave it there. I cut it up and kind of mulch with it, so it melts back into the ground, feeds the other trees, and then the next trees come up behind it, and they'll fruit, but they only do it once in their life.
Mm.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It'll stand. It'll look awesome. It'll keep growing, but it won't make another. It won't make another patch of bananas.
Yeah, I'm trying to I'm gonna put my first batch down here probably within the next couple of weeks. But I wanna plant some trees as opposed to having a crop and always replanting.
Right.
I'm gonna do a little of that, but just because I'm a piece of shit and incredibly lazy, the idea of just having a tree, right? And I have to keep planting and harvesting. It'll just keep growing and dropping shit on me. I'm
Right.
looking for like avocados,
Mm.
bananas seems like a good idea. But every time I go and pay $1 for each one of these avocados, I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
man, it'd be great if there was just
Yeah.
a tree in my backyard full of avocados, so I could have hipster avocado toast every day.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's the life, bro. Shit. But they see nature got your back. Permaculture has your back because that's definitely what I've invested in. Like I've learned early, the first few years we were doing the annual garden with the tomatoes, cabbages, like all kinds
Uh-huh.
of stuff, and it's fun. It's a cool thing to be engaged in. It's an awesome exercise. We eat all of that stuff, so it's cool. But the real investment, in my opinion, is the trees and
Yeah.
edible perennials. Perennials and shit that just grows every year. Even if it gets cold, it might drop the leaves or even maybe die back to the ground, but it'll grow back next year without you actually physically having to plant it.
So
And
when
there's
so when
also
you say edible perennials, like give me an example what you mean.
an edible perennial that I have would be it's a spinach called longevity spinach. And instead of growing like a really light, so you know how regular, traditional spinach you would think of, this thing, the stalk on it gets woody over time. It still puts out a lot of young green leaves that's good to eat, but the bottom stalk gets woody. So you can cut it back. It'll die back a little bit in the winter, but next spring it'll automatically start growing from the woody stems and put on a whole bunch of new growth. So it
That
just stays there.
sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean a blueberry bush would also be an edible perennial because
Ooh,
you plant
okay.
that once, as long as you got the right soil conditions. You plant it once, it can produce blueberries for 7 8 years before you actually need another bush.
That sounds amazing. I love blueberries, high in antioxidants,
Yeah,
relatively cheap. You get
yeah,
like three big plastic containers for like $10,
yeah.
but I'd rather just grow them in my backyard.
Facts, bro. I mean, I got all kinds of stuff. That's what I've been
Eight,
investing mostly in.
7, 8 years, yeah, edible perennials.
Yeah, yeah. You don't got to be replanting and then I think when you have a good collection of that type of stuff, you can have more fun with the annuals because you're not so dependent on them. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Annuals are hard to grow, man. I mean, it's literally like laying candy down and out in the open in nature. Like everything that needs sugar or wants some, it's gonna come get it. And cabbages and tomatoes, like this is some of the most sweetest, succulent shit you could. The
Right
little
to nature.
lettuces and greens, and all the animals are like, "Thanks, buddy. We go fucking wreck this shit." They love it, man. They love it. You might not never see a rabbit in your yard. You plant you some fucking lettuces that you think you're gonna use for a salad, and you get up early enough in the morning, you're gonna see some rabbits in your yard. They smell it a mile away, bro. But other things can survive it. Like I said, the edible perennials can survive it. So food bushes, little small bushes that grow food, things that have root crops that you like a cassava, stuff you just stick it in the ground and forget about it. It makes a dope, starchy root crop that you can use if you want. The bananas are definitely dope, long as you get the right stuff. I think one of the biggest lessons we learned is the stores who sell fruit trees don't give a fuck about you for the most part. Like the big franchise places, they don't give a shit about you. So when you go to uh, like Rural King or Tractor Supply or Walmart or any of those places that's got their little garden center and they sell fruit trees, it looks beautiful because it's been fertilized to the gills. It's most likely grown in another state with a different climate and a different hardiness zone, and they bring it to Florida, and you buy this and you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna have me some apples and pears and shit, and you put them in the ground. Best case scenario is they look beautiful for years but never make any fruit. Worst case scenario is dead next year. And they know this is gonna happen. Because I look up the trees, I'm in here like, oh, this looks nice. Let me double check just to make sure what's the zone for this tree. It's like, oh, this zone 8. I'm in zone 9B where I'm at. These are for like 5 to 8, zone 5 to 8 trees, and it needs 700 frost hours or chill hours they call it. So it has to be below 40 degrees for 700 hours for this thing to make fruit. That's what helps it transform all the sugars, you know what I mean, and give it to the fruit that it's going to make. Apples, a lot of the stone fruits, 6, 7, 800 chill hours. Florida gets like 250 tops. So your tree will look nice. It'll grow leaves. It'll be beautiful, but it's never going to make any fruit. Never.
Mm.
And they know this, but it
So,
looks so nice.
so the trees. This is very educational for me. It needs actually for it to be bad weather, cold weather.
Cold weather.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive. It seems like the more sun, the better, but no, it needs
Well,
that
yeah,
downtime of cold, and it's using that time to inject sugar in all of the fruit.
right. To pull up its sugar resources and then push it out into the fruit in the spring when the flowers set and it really starts to take off. If it doesn't have those chill hours, it's like the tree needs all of its resources for itself. But when it can go into a hibernation, period,
Ah,
it can kind of condense those sugars and produce a lot of fruit. But that's like I said, not all trees are like that. There's trees. University of Florida has a whole program where they crossbreed and do all of this selective breeding to find fruits, exotic fruits that can grow in Florida without, they're called low chill varieties. So I have a low chill peach tree. Regular peach trees, the furthest south you can grow them is Georgia. Everything below Georgia is just not cold enough. And or if you go maybe over to the Panhandle, it gets cooler, stuff like that, but
Yeah.
down here where we at, it's just too warm throughout the whole year. But this peach tree I have is called a tropic snow peach. It has white flesh, freestone, what they call it, so the pit pops right out. You don't have to like tear it out and shit. And dude, it's like eating cotton candy. It's disrespectfully sweet. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's almost, it feels like when you're eating it, it feels like it's not good for you. That's how sweet it is. It's like there's no way that this is not spiking my whole shit right now. It has to be, but it's so good, and it's produced. We got it from a nursery in Clearwater, and they have the University of Florida fruit trees because you can't go directly to the UF and ask them for their fruit trees. But since we're going to be a registered nursery here at Golden Loop Farms LLC, we'll be able to go get them at the good prices and all. We can
Nice.
negotiate. So it's going to be dope. I'm looking forward to that because they've done a lot of work creating stuff that you haven't been able to grow in Florida historically, like plums, peaches, and all kinds of stuff. Shit that you just want, but it comes from other places to get shipped in. So it's dope, man. It's dope. You got to know your zone when you buying these trees because they're going to lie to you. The tropical stuff, the stuff that comes from, Jamaica, Barbados cherries and stuff like that, you can probably get away with because they're from fairly tropical regions. They don't need a lot of chill hours, but you got to be really careful about pears, peaches, figs, apples, like all that wild shit. They'll give you a nice tree, but they don't give a fuck about you.
Pineapples and coconuts, I would assume, would be fine here.
Oh yeah. I've grown. We had our first homegrown pineapple this year, and pineapples, you can take the tops off when you buy a pineapple from the store. You cut off the top and you soak it in water and it'll drop roots and you can plant it. So every pineapple you buy, keep the top and just put it in water in a jar or whatever for a couple weeks and it'll make roots and you can plant it right outside.
Even if it's a Frankenstein pineapple,
Oh, the
it still
Frankenfruit
works.
GMO.
Yeah. The
Well,
laboratory
I don't
descendant.
think any. I don't know of any pineapples that are actual laboratory GMO, but
If you get an
selective breed.
organic pineapple, you'll be straight.
Right. Yeah, either one. I don't even give a shit, honestly, because when I plant it here in my own soil, I'm refreshing it. I'm giving it new life. I'm not fertilizing it with no chemicals and shit like that. So the next pineapple it makes is going to be better than the one that it actually was. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? So I don't even worry about it. And plus, like I said, I don't know of any pineapples that are really on it like that, like genetically modified type pineapples. There's definitely selective breeding. I know a lot of people tend to get that shit mixed up. I see a lot of people railing about something that they call GMO, which is actually just selective breeding. It's very different. Most
Well,
of the fruit,
selective breeding versus you're actually splicing the DNA of
right?
the plant.
That's different. Like, yeah, if you want a tomato to last longer on the shelf, so you put some salamander DNA in it.
Right.
That's the kind of shit that I'm trying to avoid. But
Got you.
selective breeding is just about every fruit that we have
Yeah.
access to. They've done that to make it taste better and shit. Bananas used to be full of seeds. Can you imagine, bro? A banana
Bro,
that's just full of seeds.
it's not even very appealing now. I mean, you eat it because you know it's going to lower your blood pressure, but I
Right.
mean, it's phallic. It's not the sweetest of the fruits available. It doesn't have a lot going for it. So if it's just riddled with seeds,
Right.
it would get skipped over.
To the point where you'd have to bite it and then like kind of mush it around in your
Spit
mouth to
out
get that and
seeds.
spit out
Yeah.
all the seeds. Like,
There,
yeah.
there, there's a couple of fruits that taste good enough that it warrants that. Like if you got it, if you're not getting seedless grapes, spitting out a little tiny seed for the grapes delicious.
Yeah.
Watermelon, it's fucking delicious. You got a sweet orange, fucking delicious. Couple seeds in there, you can spit them out, no problem. I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
going through that for a fucking banana.
Yeah.
No
Not no.
way.
It's not worth it.
I don't even know any of it. I don't even know how you would plant a banana because it doesn't have any seeds. I heard it's like the tip of it because I think it's technically an herb if I'm not mistaken. A
Yeah.
banana.
It's like a modified. It's like a highly evolved grass. Basically, it's like a grass, almost like bamboo or something like that. It's amazing. The one I just got recently, about a year ago, is called a blue java, and when it first comes, like when the flower first sprouts and the bananas first start growing, they're like a deep blue color. And then once they ripen, they turn yellow. But everybody says they taste like vanilla ice cream or some shit like that. Like some of the sweetest, most flavorful
Oh
bananas,
shit.
highly sought after. It to the point where I was looking online for them, Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. And people say they have blue Java bananas, but all the pictures are from like Google Images. Because I seen the same pictures when I was looking for them, and I'll be like wary, like that ain't no blue Java, bro. And I won't know till a year from now when it sprouts and the bananas ain't blue. So it's like I don't trust you,
And it don't taste like vanilla.
right? I'll be pissed off, but it's too late now. So yeah, that's
And
that's how serious it is with the blue Javas.
and what the fuck is vanilla? Because I heard vanilla has a lot of minerals in it. I love everything that tastes vanilla flavored shit. I enjoy. Um, but I'm assuming you can't just. I mean, it's like a flower, right? What is vanilla?
It grows on a vine. It's like an orchid,
Okay,
basically. So
okay.
it grows on a vine. It opens a really, really dope flower. But the one main reason that it costs so much is because in the place where bananas grow naturally, there's a tiny little micro bee. It's mad small compared to regular bees,
Uh huh.
and that's the only thing small enough to
That'll
get
pollinate
inside
it.
the flower to pollinate it. And it's a
Wow.
crazy
Okay.
pollination mechanism the way it happens. It's unbelievable. So only that small bee can do it. So people have had a really hard time introducing that bee to other places and it's surviving and pollinating like they wanted to. So right now vanilla is hand pollinated. So they got to go flower by flower. And it's not like, some flowers just have pollen and stamens or whatever. You just tap on one with a paintbrush and then tap the next one down the line. You got everything fertilized. But this thing is like a mechanism. There's a flap that has to get pulled back and then you tuck something else in and then close the flap back up. So
And
it,
pollinating is fucking. The bees are fucking the flowers, right?
well,
This is where the
technically,
euphemism for the birds and the bees,
right.
right?
Technically, the bee would be covering itself in the sperm of the male and then rolling around on the ovaries of the female. So it's not really screwing them, but it's helping them screw each other.
So it's like, okay, so it'd be like two people who are having sex and getting each other pregnant, but never actually in the same room. So
Right. So
somebody
you just
comes
have to
in,
go.
is
Yep.
like a bukkake victim,
Right.
right? They get all covered and slathered up good, and then go over and roll around on the female until some of
Right.
the bukkake juice gets transmitted. That's
Base.
it seems like it's a horrible existence for a bee. That doesn't
Well,
sound like any fun. What so what and again, forgive my ignorance. I have no idea about any of this stuff, but what is so when they get so what is a bee really looking for when it's in there and transmitting from the male to the female plants? What is it there to do? Like eat a little bit of the flower?
no, the bees use the pollen to make honey, basically.
Okay. So and the pollen is the sex juice?
The pollen is the sperm from the male,
Okay.
and it's basically sugar and protein, minerals and shit like that. So they take
Same as
that.
ours, right? Protein.
Well, hey,
Can,
listen.
can be
So
very sweet. If you eat a lot of pineapples,
if
you'll
you
get
eating
rave
right,
reviews.
if you taking good care of yourself, yeah. But it's so
Eat a
they
lot
take
of
that.
fast food is gonna be salty, B. It's gonna be
Terrible. You
real
don't want that.
salty. You're gonna get bad reviews.
Yeah, your
All
lady
right,
won't
so
be happy. Oh, and well, whoever won't be
whoever,
happy.
right?
No,
No,
not necessarily
we're
your lady.
it doesn't have to be binary. You could be whatever, right?
So
Disavow.
disavow, yeah. So the bees, they take that, they take that back to the hive. They use it to make honey to feed the youngins and all of that. So everything is good. But while they're in there, I mean, they can't take every piece of pollen, but they go flower to flower to flower to flower. So they're mixing and they're leaving some, and they're really filthy. They're terrible with crime scenes and
Yeah.
shit. They just all over the place. But it just works, you know what I'm saying? And
And
people,
so
we was talking
inadvert,
about the
yeah,
vanilla. People are trying to grow it here because the plant can grow in Florida. Because we were, about to build a structure for this shit, but I was just like, dude, I'm the type of person that would rather try to get the bee to live here
then
successfully
hand
than
pollinate.
hand pollinate. Yeah,
Yeah, I
if I
ain't
was
trying
going to
to do
invest
that.
time in one of those things, it would be trying to bring the bee here rather than hand pollinating all the vanilla.
I'm
But
not
it's
gonna
a
do that. Not
super super duper cash crop though, bro. You have no idea.
But if you have that vanilla flower, how does that get refined into something that you'd actually eat?
Because once the flower is pollinated, the same way a banana flower becomes a banana once it's pollinated. Same thing with peaches. The peach flower becomes the peach. So the pollinated flower becomes this long string bean like pod that has the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of vanilla seeds inside of it. But as the pod ripens, this liquid and like sugars from the plant go into the pod, and it makes it like it's like this juicy, waxy kind of mix of seeds and resin
Mm.
almost. So they take that, they scrape all of that out, and then vanilla extract is they soak it in some type of alcohol, and then they just sell you the alcohol that's been soaked with the seeds and the natural juices from the pod. So if you've ever had a real vanilla bean, the flavor is
Uh-huh.
so much more intense than that vanilla extract shit. But vanilla extract is such a good business because there's so much pungent, intense flavor in that pod. You could cut that
Uh,
shit down to nothing and still sell it for
right. You can
still
mix
sell
it
it
with
for a
baby
bottle,
powder,
right?
and
All
you can
that
really stretch it.
you step all on it. Step all on that vanilla because it's strong, bro. Terrible, right? Drug references for vanilla beans, but it's awesome, man. I've had fresh, real vanilla before, and it's fucking amazing. So I'm definitely it's a cool cash crop, and I'm still thinking I'm gonna try to grow some here and just see, maybe hopefully maybe we'll have some weird little Florida bee, and we'll get lucky. But
If you
I'm
plant it, they
always
will
up for
come.
cash crops. Yeah, that's what I think. So I got a nice macadamia nut tree right now that I'm nursing, taking care of that. My homie gave to me macadamia nuts like fucking $30 a pound and shit. Like it's crazy, bro.
Oh
Crazy.
yeah.
So I try to invest in exotic stuff that you don't see very often, which is why I get the types of banana that I get, the types of peaches and all that, just stuff that you're not going to see at the grocery store. So when I do start to sell stuff or make barters for anything, that I'll have a nice little a nice exotic bargaining chip because it's not stuff that you see every day.
I don't know. My little taste sacks riddled neurons are already firing. I
Oh,
already I'm already trying to think of uh yeah, man. You definitely need to have some kind of consulting business where one, if you're gonna be a liaison, right? I'm sure there's I know I would already be lining up like, yo, let me get those vanilla tasting bananas. I need one of those peaches that tastes like it's sinfully sugary. And let me get one of those edible perennial blueberry bushes. So I mean, if you're gonna have a license to where you'll be able to purchase the ones that people will need. I mean, you could really help people one get the product initially or have access to it, but also in a consulting capacity of what they need to do to nourish it and make their soil
right, right,
efficient for getting them a yield. And that would
right.
definitely be something that I mean, I don't. For some people, I mean, they're not going to be able to do it. I mean, I personally want to do it for food security. I
Right.
don't trust none of this shit. Doom is coming, impending. It's the end of the world type shit. I'm doomsday prepping. But I mean, some people that are sane and they're still living in reality. I think they would just like to be able to go out, and have something to have that experience. I think it makes you a better person too, to tend
Yeah,
to something. It makes you feel like you're more a part of this instead of just a cog in the machine. Like you're actually reconnected with nature and seeing a natural process at work and being at the end of that production process to get some food. I don't
yeah.
know. There's something
No,
spiritual about it.
it is. It absolutely is. I've learned so much, so much from just my experience in the garden, and not just the actual learning process of what to do in the garden, but being in the garden and experiencing what your expectations mean and what like it's just a lot of things that come out of there that help you become more patient, more understanding about things, and it's natural for those things that you learn out there to apply themselves in your regular life. It's like if I can learn to be patient with this soil and how I want my tomatoes to grow, it
You
makes
can
me
hold on
look
to
at
castor.
Right.
Right.
I can hold it till it fucking triples. Right. And it's like when your kids do shit that's crazy, it's like you just have a different idea about it. Time feels different when you out in the garden grounding and taking care of business and shit. So I'm super, super thankful for the experience that I had. And mine started in fear too. I was watching fucking hoarders, bro. Doomsday preppers. That's what it was. Not hoarders, doomsday preppers. I was watching doomsday preppers when we
Yeah,
first got
hoarders
this
isn't going to
house.
be very helpful.
Yeah, that's not going. Well, hoarders helps you clean the house.
Right.
If you
It
watch
makes you
hoarders,
get paranoid. Like, I might be on the track.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
little too many loose notes over here. Like,
yeah.
let
Hoarders
me
helps you purge. You get rid of shit you've been wanting to throw away for a year. It's like you watch an episode or two of hoarders, you're like, yo, I'm a fucking disgusting pig. Let me get this shit out of here.
Yo,
But yeah,
I've seen it in real life. That shit is insane, dude.
I can't even imagine. I was watching doomsday preppers every day, and all I was doing was watching that and then going on YouTube trying to figure out how to grow food. It's like we can't, because I didn't want to be the guy that just has 400 pounds of rice. I was like, I'm just going to invest in growing food so we don't, because the stores are going to all close and we're going to be screwed. And then you spend some time in the garden and shit just changes.
And not only is it a righteous thing to do to proselytize your neighbors and get other people on board with this shit, it also makes them less of a threat down the road if something should happen.
Right.
Like you don't want a bunch of starving, unprepared people around you, and you just have this glorious garden. Like I told you so, fuckers.
I told
And
y'all
that's
years ago. What
stay
y'all
off
been
my
doing?
land.
How's that lawn working out for you?
Right, you got a lot of little Nazi blades of grass. They're all uniform, all standing together. It's pristine. You've been watering it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You
yeah,
have to chew on that. Try to
yeah.
brew a tea of it. You'll make it work.
See how it goes. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I've definitely been. I try to, for the people who are open minded and I can build with, they understand what I'm doing. We've had conversations and they've seen it change over time. My one neighbor's the coolest. She comes over here. I got all kinds of shit growing. She takes it and makes salads with it. She has a pet iguana. She feeds her iguana the greens and shit. And we give them as much as we can because most of the stuff that's doing the best on our property, we have way too much of it when it comes like the banana
Right.
trees all go at the same time and I got racks and racks and racks of bananas. I'm like, what the hell are we gonna do with all these bananas? So I give away as much as I can and it feels good. You know what I'm saying? I think it's to give somebody free food that has to imprint on you some
Right.
kind of way. That's special. I feel like it is anyway.
But
But yeah,
not only that, but with the because it's not like some extravagant operation where you have acres and acres and acres of land,
right,
right? And with what you have, you're producing so much that you have no choice but to give it away.
right.
I
Yeah.
mean, you could be a piece of shit and do the corporate thing and just throw it out. Like we have to, we can't give it away. It's forbidden.
I'd
Let's
rather
lock it
see
in
it
a
rot.
dumpster.
I'd
Right?
rather see it rot than have someone else eat it for free.
If you won't pay me $2 for this bunch of bananas.
Yeah, yeah, it's been awesome, man. It's definitely been one of the most life changing events I've had that I can track back to and see shit changed when this started. Shit definitely changed when we started gardening more. We started at our old place. We had like a little raised bed in the back. It was fun, but it was frustrating because we were just trying to get so much to happen in this little small space, and
Right,
and we at the time we felt like we had to get a return, spending a couple dollars
right.
on a pack of seeds and the fertilizer and all that shit. I was like, this fucking thing better grow. And that's just the wrong attitude to have. Once we got here and we had more space, we felt at home. So we had more time. Everything kind of morphed into what it is now. But I'm definitely I'm building a curriculum for sure. I'm taking it very seriously because I see the ripples and how people are kind of converging into what we've already been doing and talking about for years. So I'm definitely building that. I think that's going to be an important part of what we do on the compound. You know what I'm saying? Is spreading that knowledge and using it as a way to build revenue and build, social capital, build relationships. I mean, if I'm in my surrounding area helping people set their gardens up, the whole neighborhood is going to benefit from that. Everybody's going to benefit from
Yeah,
it. So
and empower people
yeah, for
because
sure.
there is an empowering component to it. I mean, it's good. I think for your mental health, it gives you maybe a different perspective on scarcity and abundance, and also just for practical matters. I mean, it's healthy food available to you without, having to hand anybody any coins with any pictures or rulers on it. It's just you and nature.
Right.
You put in the work to tend to it, you got immediate access to it.
Right. That shit's beautiful, man. It's been awesome. But I think our guest for today is actually ready to hop in. So this is
Yay.
a great, powerful energy that we bringing on today, my sister Ife. So I just, we kind of got connected on Facebook through a mutual friend, and I've been following her ever since. She's just a dope spirit, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely happy to have her on the show today. So I'm calling her now, and been looking forward to this conversation, man. Some powerful shit.
Excellent.
So there we
Greetings.
peace, peace. How you
Hey
doing?
there.
I'm well. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Life is good. How's your day going?
Oh, it's been a busy day, but a beautiful day. Grateful.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm happy to have you here. I'm glad we finally got the chance to bring you on the show. This is, me, my partner Pinky. We are the Cult of Dangerous Gentlemen together. We've been doing this for a while, and we just been having fun. So I'm glad you had the time to come link with us today.
Oh, me too. I'm excited. I've never done this before, so this is new and cool to me.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I'm gonna just hop right into it. So what I was explaining here is that we met through a mutual friend on Facebook, and I just saw what you were into. I thought it was dope. I thought it was powerful, something that was extremely needed in this new paradigm shift that we're going through. So it was magnetic for me to see somebody expressing all about their transformations and what they have been going through, just openly, authentically. And I know that's what we need moving forward, is open and authentic sharing, and not just trying to present ourselves as masterpieces that always had it figured out. It's something very powerful in talking about your journey and your story and everything like that. So I just think it's awesome. So that's why I'm always watching and always, following. And it's dope. So I just wanted you to know that. You know what I'm saying? And so to get right into it, before just to introduce yourself to everybody who might be listening, and after you introduce yourself, I'd like you to explain and break down where you found your name and what is the significance of it.
Okay. Okay. Let's be easy. Let's see. So Ife Asa, and that's me. I am that I am. And I'm on ifeasa.com, so you can reach me there or see my work.
Absolutely.
And I know now that Ife, the name origin is Yoruba, and it means love. Now, we'll say that for the first 4 or 5 years carrying the name, I thought that I had chosen the name because when I picked it, I chose a name that meant literally life with no L's. Um,
Mm,
and in effort to speak over myself, I just wanted to create a life with no losses. Um, and so it wasn't until I had been wearing the name Ife or Ife for a while when someone told me that in Yoruba it means love, and then I knew that it actually chose me. so
dope.
so yeah, um, so that's who I am and where I am and how I got the name, and that name really does say all that I am and all that I do. Learning to love in a multitude of languages.
Dope. That's awesome. That's awesome. So how would you describe, from your point of view, how would you describe the work that you're doing right now?
You know what? I wouldn't even know how. I think at first I thought that was problematic, but I think if I give it a name or a structure, it almost boxes it. Um, and so I'm learning that healing really it's the customized plan per person, you know. So I just let people show up with their shit, and then you tell me what we're doing. But most commonly, I've heard people say, "Man, it feels like I'm in love school." Just learning really how to love and how to recognize other people's love so you don't take offense in everything.
Mm, okay. Love school is dope.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
love school. That works.
Yeah. We enrolling.
Yeah, that's fire. I like that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So what was it? How long? Okay, so how long ago was it when you realized that you were in like a conscious, deliberate transition?
mm, wow. That was probably, man, conscious and deliberate. Ooh, that's difficult.
Right, because I know life is
Yeah.
always happening, and
Yeah.
you're always kind of moving through the continuum, and it's always now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
don't really past, present, all of that stuff. Which what we experience is now. So I know we just kind of look around some days and we find ourselves way different than we used to be. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I asked about when did you realize that something was happening and you were driving it and you were kind of in the driver's seat, so to speak.
I think it was in maybe 2015 when my husband asked me just randomly if I'd ever had sex with another man since we'd been married. And the way he asked me didn't seem like this was a good opportunity for me to lie. It felt like I'd already been figured out. And so I remember saying honestly, yes. And I felt safe in saying so because our marriage had been so open that I had extended our intimacies to various friends of mine just for his, just for his pleasure or enjoyment. So when I told him though that I had been with someone else, I to this day I can remember literally watching his love for me dissipate. And it was that disconnect that really started the shift for me. I guess I'd grown to believe that I don't know that marriage was open, and I don't know. I had an idea about marriage, and once that idea fell apart, it left it open for every other paradigm to shift. I was
Right.
open now to see what love looked like really, what health looked like really, what everything looked like outside of what they told me it would look like. So I think that's what triggered the conscious shifts in my life.
Mm, okay, that's
So,
definitely powerful.
and I don't mean to be crude. I just want to clarify. So,
Uh-huh.
when you say that you had, I'm assuming what you mean is like what those of us that are scumbags we would call like a threesome, right?
We don't have to be scumbags, do we?
No, no, no. I mean, no, but you said it in a
Yeah.
very poetic way. You were like, and there was we had some friends of ours that we shared our love in,
I mean,
and I didn't want to disparage it or make it because I understand how you're conveying it. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what she meant, um, I had a dude and I would bring girls over and we would have a good. Is that my understanding or no?
yeah, that's definitely a
Okay,
part of it. But for me, it was never just that. It's always been complementary needs. Like I would never bring a woman home just because she had a fat ass. It would be also be that would be a benefit. So we literally were building with people financially and intimately. So I really did feel like it was all open. I felt like we were polyamorous, but we never had
I
that conversation, and neither of us
just kind of
were.
understood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, like that's a system and a set of things that's being discussed a lot right now, especially in the space where people. It seems to be more so in the space where people are trying to heal themselves. People are applying metaphysics and medicine and all of this stuff. I don't see it very much in a quote unquote mainstream conversation. I see it a lot where people are trying to heal. So, do you think there's a connection between people trying to heal and breaking away from traditional monogamy too?
I think so. I think just the same way when the shape of marriage shifted for me or collapsed, I was open for what marriage looks like to show up anyway, besides what I'd been told is supposed to look like. So I think that for a lot of people, that is it. And learning that what you thought you knew isn't working and accepting that you don't know what to accept. So you'll accept what anybody tells you is working. And because it's so glorified in some places, that could easily be one of the things. And I do realize it's trending, but I've never been in a relationship that wasn't organized this way. It so it was a shock to me to not have support in it. And it's a shock to me still to see so many people fumble with what I believe is a really simple concept.
Well, you have to forgive my ignorance. I'm what you say is much more traditional, so I have a
Hmm.
lot of curiosity about it. So I don't want to ask anything in a way that it's if I cause offense in any way, it's not my intention. Um, so you never felt like jealous. There was no like hints of jealousy of like kind of some kind of concept of ownership of your dude, you know, like you wouldn't want him to be with somebody else if you weren't around, or that wasn't a kind of you just naturally like you didn't find yourself having that kind of attachment in that kind of way?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is for me. And I'll be honest, that's not something that I like to admit, because a lot of people feel like that's insensitive, or I detach easily. But I've never been, I don't know, I've never been okay with love as ownership. And it could be the non-conventional relationships I was exposed to coming up. I was raised in a lesbian household. Not
Okay.
only was I raised by two women, but my grandmother was married to the same woman my entire life.
Oh wow.
And both of my aunts are all in relationships with women that they've been with 30 plus years. So that could be a lot of. I remember when my mother was married to my father. There were times that we would meet new people, you know, as they would be an uncle or aunt or cousin. But as I grew older, I could tell that my parents even opened their marriage to intimacy with other people. So I think that coming up, exposed to relationships being so different and still so successful, I was always okay with my relationships being unique as long as they were successful. But no, I've not experienced that jealousy, or I think I know what it feels like now. But I've never responded in it the same way that some people do. There's always like a humbling calm that comes over that reminds me that all is well and nothing belongs to me, respectfully. You know, nothing, not even my children, not my mother, you know. So I didn't have jealousy issues or ownership issues, and thought that neither of us did until that conversation.
Right. And that had to be shocking for you at that point because you're thinking, I'm assuming at this point, you guys are totally on the same page and there was never any objections on and if I ask anything that's too personally, please by all means check me. That's fine.
You're
Uh
okay.
okay.
You're okay.
So I because for most and I guess I would be speaking for most dudes but maybe I shouldn't assume that, but I would assume for most dudes like they wouldn't if my girl is down to have another girl involved with us, that's cool. I but I don't want my girl to be with another dude. That would be a problem. So when he asked you that, did he meant like just be with any person, or was he like talking about specifically a dude?
He was specifically referring to another dude, because I remember
Okay.
saying, like, I remember saying, like, if let's be fair here, if you were into men, you would have been invited in those spaces too, but you're not, and so I
Right. There'd be
excluded you.
nothing there for you. Right.
Right. So I excluded
Right.
you from that. Like, even the detail of it, like, you know, this was me being what I thought was respectful or honorable, no different than occasions where he would deal with women who maybe didn't feel safe or didn't trust that it would be okay to come home to his wife, you know. Um, but yeah, I left him with space to evolve into the best version of himself with whatever tools, people, lessons that he saw fit. And that's how I see love. And so that's what I expect. Your only job is to evolve into the best version of you. And if I love you, then I trust that you aren't, you know, tearing up shit and wreaking havoc in the process, that you're actually mindfully building, but that you're consciously doing things that in somehow make you better. Because that's what I was doing for me and for him and for us. But yeah, so he didn't receive it that way though. and
No, and I think just because of my experience, most men have a really indefensible double standard when it comes to what they can do versus what their girl can do, right? And it's interesting just because in I think what you would admit, like for most people, it's a atypical kind of relational dynamic that you're talking about, right?
oh,
But even
definitely.
but even within that context it doesn't surprise me at all that the masculine component of it it's very hard for us to shake this notion of ownership, and there's some really antiquated um even toxic components to that identity. But even in something where it's so free, where okay, if I want to be with another girl, my girl's okay with that. and she trusts my judgment that I can do that without involving her or letting her know. And if it's somebody that's probably I want to be intimate with, but not so intimate enough that I want her to know where I live or be involved in my life in that capacity, and I'm assuming on all those grounds you're completely okay with that, right? But then the moment you're doing anything that's exactly what he was doing, right? I mean, it's nothing that was so out of bounds for what you guys had agreed upon, but the moment that he was confronted with that, like you said, you saw the love just disappear from his face.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I do. I remember that. I think I'm grateful that we're in a better place now. Um, yeah, he understands me now and even feels the same way now. He can
Mm,
say that it was an issue of ownership, and I yeah, like I have it, and I know it sounds fucked up, but for him, the experience from one woman to another woman is I'm going to be used as her rebound, I'm going to be used for sex, or I'm going to be used for money. And so now he looks like, wow, it was peace at home. There was a place there was a place where if I was going to be expected to get money or lessons or anything, it was for my own good, not securing a bag for someone else. So I think he understands now how I was trying to move. It's easier. Damn, it's hard to explain this. So, but the being open
hmm
was easier to. It's easier for me to filter out the people who really are trying to build. Like some people are trying to build futures, and some people are just trying to build relationships. And that's where our disconnect was. I wanted to build community, like a village, and he just wanted to build just the two of us in our house. And now he understands that in order for any one of us to survive, we're gonna at some point need to expand beyond our house, not just sexually, but
right.
period. So he gets it now, but yeah, it took me being all the way woke to
Well,
get
I
there.
think I think there's so many other components to a successful relationship besides sex. I think there's
Yeah.
such a overemphasis on sex that I'm kind of curious to think of maybe kind of, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but relative to maybe how more traditionally minded people look at sex, there's almost like it's trivialized a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Like it's not as much of a big deal in the relational dynamics that you're talking about that it is for other people. And I don't know, maybe that has the potential to remove some of the cloudiness about the other aspects, or to make you more appreciative of all the other components. Like obviously if you guys are back together, right, there's so many other things outside of sexual loyalty, or in the way that traditional people understand it, right, that make for a happy home and a happy life for him, right, outside
Mhm.
of just sex. Whereas for most people it's like a deal breaker. Okay, you had sex with somebody else, I can't be with you anymore. There's that
Mhm.
territorial thing. My land has been invaded. I must abandon it. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how. And him and I live together now. Um, Crazy enough, my baby daddy, my first love, is my neighbor, like my immediate neighbor. We share a wall, and then my not husband, who is what I call him because we've been separated for 5 years. Him and I live together now, and we have not been intimate in. I mean, we haven't been intimate since before the conversation. Like, have you been with anybody else? So we've not been together sexually since then, and we can and currently we can share a bed and a home. His motor blew out 2 weeks ago, so we're currently sharing a car. And I point out to him all the time, this is exactly what I meant before. If you removed sex completely, because you're right, it is trivialized. And I've also not had sex in maybe 2 or 3 years. Since my last breakup, I did count months the first year.
Okay, this gets more and more
Listen,
interesting as you go
it
on. But yeah,
it
please
really
continue.
but yeah, it really does. So I mean, and now our dynamic is beautiful, and without the sex, and that's just it. And I don't think that he's just hurting for sex and in need and looking at me like, oh my god, how come? I think that when he needs to have that part of him met, he'll go and do what he has to do, and then we back onto the grind. And that is what I try to make him know it was for me from the beginning. It was never about sex or intimacy. Even the women that I brought home, they had frequencies or energies that I wanted to share with you. Because I'm so aggressive, it would be like me to bring home a woman who was super submissive, for the purpose of growing your ego, you know? So I
Right.
have always used sex for energy and for magic, even before I knew what I was doing. And now he gets it. So I'm like, we could eliminate sex completely and have a successful relationship. And we do now, you know, like I said, it's crazy how now it's easy. Now, if he walks in and I'm on a FaceTime with a guy, there's no huffing and puffing about who I'm, you know, now,
Right. Right.
like now the presumption, now he knows how I move. Now he trusts me with me. He knows that I'm not out here just giving out ass and making a fool of black people. If I'm interacting with somebody that's power generating, you know. And so now he does it moves the same way. But again, it took us a messy breakup and years
Right.
before we saw eye to eye.
And it's interesting too that um like we were talking about earlier, all those other components that you could be in a relationship and maybe not appreciate. For most people, the sex is a deal breaker, but now you're describing a situation which I think would surprise a lot of people, where you guys, just for the sake of the enterprise itself, you guys work in such a way that you can make plans and establish a household and solve problems together in a very successful way. And it doesn't all hinge upon sex. Also, really interesting too is I think most people would probably um, be very presumptuous in thinking, okay, well, if you're part of that lifestyle, clearly sex is, on the table all the time. And so to say like, yeah, I haven't had sex in about 2 or 3 years, it's just I could hear a lot of people probably listening to this with their mind being blown because there's so many assumptions I think that people would have about this kind of
Mm.
relationship that a lot of the things that you've said just it flies in the face of it.
I get that totally. I, I remember years ago, and a brother talked to me about sexually transmitted spirits or energies. And I pretty much laughed at him, having come up promiscuous, again, sharing sex and not understanding why I was. He said, now I know why. It really was energy. Most of the time, it wasn't even about orgasms. It really was energy or tension or, let's be real, money, currency, but it was always something else. So I did have this promiscuous history and this detached relationship with sex anyway. Give it or take it makes no difference. And
Right.
I'm having this conversation with this brother, and he asked me, like, have I ever, like, he says he wants to be personal. Have I ever had sex with a broke ass nigga? And he said it just like that. And I'm like, you mean like broke? He mean like broke. However you take broke to mean broke, I mean broke. And I immediately thought of the times that I'd laid with men who couldn't afford to give me gas to come and see them, or who couldn't afford rubbers, or who I had to remind that they didn't have enough tissue in the house when I came to have sex. And he asked me, how did I feel when I fucked with broke ass niggas? And I told him shamefully, I felt broke. When I left, I felt broke too. And he asked me how I felt when I was with assholes or jerks. And over when he asked me, I had to be honest and say the energy matched. And when he asked me if I had ever laid with a god, if he asked me if I had ever exchanged divine energies, and I knew that I hadn't, I knew in that point I would never exchange sex again unless I knew that it was going to be a divine receipt. And so it's easy for me now. I know that in sex, it's crazy because when I was a teenager, my mother said, "You worried about STDs and babies?" She's like, "STDs, most of them you can get a shot for, and they hard. The baby is one of the most beautiful things that you can get home." She was telling me that as scary as all of those things were, and how I was mostly afraid of the baby, that was the most beautiful. Hold on, y'all. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, y'all. No, I'm at the urgent care. The husband threw his back out today.
Oh goodness, sorry.
Give me
We'll,
one
we'll play
second.
some technical difficulty music
Okay,
in the
hold on. No,
interim.
oh no, you ain't
Da,
gotta play
da,
nothing. I'm
da,
right here.
da,
Okay,
da,
I
da,
like
da,
that
da.
music. Hold,
I might
hold on.
actually find something to throw it in here too.
But yeah, when he asked me if I'd ever exchanged divine energies with a man, and I knew that I had not. And I also remember what my mother said, and it made me realize that I'm getting up with something every time. Like whether I'm aware of it or not, it doesn't matter if I leave with a STD, a nut, or a baby. If I am aware or unaware, every time I have sex, I am leaving with something. And so if I'm not very much aware of what it is that I'm taking when I go, then I just opt not to lay. So I've been in this place for some time now.
But that's it takes some power and discipline to be able to, keep up with that type of charge for any extended amount of time for anybody. You know what I'm saying? So to stick to it like that, I'm sure it has a lot of benefits that make it a lot easier. It's like from the outset, it seems like something that most people wouldn't want to commit to doing, but I think if you actually commit to it for a reason, the benefits that you get from it make it worthwhile. That's what it seems like. That would make it easier to stick to.
Oh yeah, I agree. Plus, it really does. I mean, it really does again filter out people who don't mean anything.
Right.
And then it helps to create new ways of intimacy outside of sex. So I've been happy. I haven't missed anything. You know.
And you active. You active. You seem like you're always in a good mood when you go live. You be excited and full of energy. So it don't look like you're missing nothing.
Nah, I don't feel like I'm missing nothing. My
Excellent.
energy was actually low the past 2 days, so I just took a day of sacred silence, and yeah, then I woke up feeling like nothing ever happened. so, so it's all
Excellent.
good. Always, he said, hinged on sex. When you said that, I was like, man, that's amazing, because my life is hinged on peace. I realized that every
Mm.
one of my decisions revolves around my peace. And that's
And
how it's easy not to have sex, because I know that that's easy to compromise my peace, the attachments, the lies, all kind of things. It's just my peace is the priority always.
what a stark contrast, because you're anchored to your peace and everything is in service of that. If it's going to disturb my peace, then it's not worth it to me. Whereas most of us are running around, it's like, yo, I will sacrifice anything for some sex. I will I will I will ruin this marriage. I will lose this
Absolutely.
job.
Yeah.
We got
Integrity
it
out the
backwards.
window.
Yeah.
You paying bill money to get it. Like, yeah, it don't
Yeah.
matter. When that
Just
when that urge hit, it ain't a lot that most people won't do. Especially males, because males generally
yeah,
have a
we're the
harder
worst.
time. They have a harder time closing the deal. Like I don't I and this has always been, this is like a meme, a trope. Basically, I can't say that I know it factually to be true, but from what I observed about the world, I feel like just about any woman on the planet can get sex whenever she wants. Like I,
It's
I
not a
can't
trope.
foresee a
It is a
situation.
reality.
Like I
Yeah.
can't imagine a situation where a woman can't get sex. I understand that she don't want it, but I can't see a scenario in my head where she just can't get it. That don't make no sense to me.
Well, it's the same. I mean, so a woman can be rich or poor, you're right. With men, it's power. Any man with any semblance of power can get it whenever he wants. It doesn't matter if that is like the times that, trigger warning, that I've submitted to sex because I thought I might be raped if I didn't, because he was powerful in
Wow.
size or stature. So even a man with money, but with power, even if it is opinions. So it could be a false power, or a community leader. As long as there is power, the man has the same access to a woman with or without power. But you're right, nobody is actually cultivating power in men. So
Right.
it can get a little crazy out here.
Right. Yeah. And we're just assuming that consent is part of the deal. You know what I'm saying? But it,
Right.
it
Yeah.
seems like most males would have a harder time, because just in the society that we have, in most places, men have to display some type of value to make
Mhm.
themselves sexually attractive to a female.
Mhm.
They gotta show something that makes it worth her while. Whereas a woman doesn't necessarily have to show anything other than her willingness to have sex. That's the deal. That's the deal closer for most females. If she's willing to have sex, most men are willing to have sex with her. So it's just a different dynamic. But I
Mhm.
get it. I totally get it. There's nothing wrong with that. I think cultivating power in yourself is definitely where we should be at, especially men. Which actually brings me to a question that I wanted to ask you during this conversation. I've been seeing a lot of people post stuff lately about how men aren't doing the work. So I see a lot of women posting, and I agree for the most part about how women are not, way stations for you to repair broken men. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are having that type of experience where these guys are coming to them, and the work itself is inherently aligned with femininity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's way easier for women to find a place in their head to figure out they need healing and go through the things that they need to do to get that healing. I think it's more natural for them. And for me, in my experience, what helped me a lot was learning about science.
Mm.
The science closed the gap on a lot of the spiritual things that I had been dabbling with. Finding the science that it was rooted in helped me to process it a lot better. I didn't know about uh, generational trauma and epigenetics 10 years ago.
Mm.
But once you apply that and kind of superimpose it onto these spiritual concepts, it makes perfect sense, and it gives you a mechanism that you can tap into to facilitate the healing. So I just want, in your experience, have you been seeing a disconnect between who's doing the work and who's not? Like, do you think that women are more open to the stuff that you're saying? Are men usually more standoffish, or they don't accept it, or too woo woo, too much magic, not enough, real world foundational elements for them to grab on? What's been your experience and the difference between men and women in the healing space?
Mm. Oh, right. You're right. Big difference. Big difference. But I think again the difference is who's being cultivated to know that they have power. Because I go through the Sacred Woman text by Queen Afua most frequently with women, and this book must be, I don't know, 400 pages, 500 pages, and it's divided into 9 gateways, each of which touches a different part of women's healing. The thing is, of the 9 gateways, those gateways are less than 25% of the book. The bulk of the book, I believe, simply readies a woman and convinces her that she deserves the healing so that she's open to do it. And I think that because brothers don't have that, they have to be convinced first that they qualify for a healing. You know, um, here we are at urgent care with my not husband. Had my back gone out, I would automatically assume that because my back is of value to my job and to my family, somebody's going to help me to get my back situated. His first mind was they probably won't accept my insurance. They probably going to make me drug test because it was at the job. They're probably going to have you late and you won't be back home in time for your podcast. So, like, you disqualifying yourself. Nobody said no, but you're so ready for it that you tell yourself no right out of the gate. And I think that's the only difference. There are more places where women are telling other women and men are telling women that they can heal and that they deserve healing, because the men who I have convinced that they deserve it, they've become unstoppable. you know so there is a difference, but I think that's the biggest difference.
Are
Yeah,
men even talking about healing though?
Oh
they
yeah,
are. They
absolutely.
definitely are. They
Yeah.
definitely are.
Yeah, they're having healing retreats where it's just men and they getting together. They talking about traumatic
Really?
experience. They tripping, they crying with each other and shit. And a couple years ago when I saw this shit, it looked like the silliest, craziest shit that I could ever think of. Seeing a bunch of dudes, like, you see when you see the snapshots, the images of the pictures, and it's just some guys wailing with each other. You're like, what the fuck are they doing? And then of course you start to process a little bit more of the experience, the work, the medicine talks to you a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, damn, like this is absolutely needed, and I'm glad they're doing it. So my whole perspective shifted on it over a course of a few years. But men are definitely talking about it a lot more than they ever have in my experience historically, and I think it's because a big part of it is because of the science that's coming out. The,
hmm
the, the science about neuroplasticity and shit like that, it speaks to an analytical mind a lot different than it does somebody who may be working more on just a feeling, because you can feel that something ain't right and you can feel that you need to find a pathway to get it right. But for men, that might not be enough most of the time. So
Yeah, because I think in my experience, and it's one of the reasons why we do end up in the hospital more, is we'll convince ourselves that we don't need any healing at all.
right,
Like,
right.
nah, I'll walk it off. Nah, I'll be all right. Like, it's really about posturing in such a way that to even admit that you would need something like that and it's probably an unhealthy way to look at it, but I think it might be the reality for a lot of people, is that it's almost a confession of weakness.
Right.
to be in need. I need healing. Like the go to, I think, for a lot of us is like, nah, I can't even admit that I have any pain about that shit. Or
Right.
I'm a bitch, so I'm not hurt. I don't care. Nothing bothers me. And
Right.
there's and a lot of male camaraderie is centered around cultivating that attitude amongst us to make sure that we're strong and we can't be deterred or saturated in our emotions into a point where it takes away what we've all kind of accepted to be our masculine identity. So I don't know, and I just may be around a whole bunch of Neanderthals. I don't know.
No,
My
no,
circle is,
nope.
I
No,
don't
You're
know.
no.
The only one person is Surreal. Surreal's the only dude that I have in my inner circle that I could say, he's pretty open and talking about his feelings, and he's comfortable with it in a way where, like, he doesn't sacrifice any masculinity, but he talks in a certain way about these kinds of issues of healing and things like that, where I feel like nobody else I know is really in that lane or open to that conversation.
right.
That's why I
Yeah.
was just shocked that so many people were having that conversation, because I'm not experiencing it in my own circle, but there's a lot of shit I'm not up on, so I shouldn't be
No,
surprised.
no, it's real. I definitely get what you're saying, and that fact that you like with Surreal, that was a big part of how me and him were able to open back up lines of communication, is because we were both experiencing kind of similar things. You know what I'm saying? And feeling similar things that we couldn't talk to a lot of other people about. When he has more people on his side because of where he is, and it's like a community already installed over there for it. But I
Right.
was getting it from, like I said, I was getting it from my lady, because I I was going 100% the opposite direction, away from that type of healing energy. I was just looking strictly at science and getting. I was being pulled into these quantum physics types, these
Right.
types of rabbit holes, and that's what was fascinating me at the time. And then when I came across a couple of these things about, like I said, about epigenetics and neuroplasticity, and figuring out that it's not just me who might have a negative internal monologue sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that you have to learn from outside yourself, I think, because you think about, when children draw pictures or make sculptures, nothing inside their head tells them that it's anything wrong with it. It's a masterpiece to them. It takes the outside world to teach them that is out of proportion, or the colors are not right, and then you start to repeat that narrative to yourself of not being good enough. But that's not a natural state of being, to be doubting yourself and talking down to yourself in your own head. Even if it's small stuff, you drop something and it breaks and you say, oh, I'm an idiot. Like, all of that shit has an effect on your whole cellular existence. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, that's something else. That's a whole big thing. But men are definitely talking about it, and I'm glad they are. And it's dope to hear you explain that the way you did, because I do see a lot of women talking about it, and I understand, because I do think men are kind of behind the curve a little bit when it comes to taking their own evolution into their own hands and really doing something about it. We do have a tendency to just let ourselves ache and just act like it's just what it has to be, and it's rough. That shit takes a serious toll on you over time. Well, we got to, oh, there it is. All right. So the next thing I wanted to ask you was about the reading itself. What was it that drew you to starting the process of reading the books to people and with people?
It was actually a brother named King Leon X. KLX was one of my Facebook heroes, and he was just a young, fiery revolutionary. I was like, man, this guy, he's bold. He'll say whatever he wants to say. And that's what made me follow him and admire him. And he actually had a challenge on Facebook. Believe we were doing challenges better than silhouette challenges. And his challenge was to read a book for 3 minutes, or 3 pages or 3 minutes. And any book, he said, it didn't matter, just to promote literacy. And so I did it, and it was just, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was like, as I would read, Spirit would say things to me between the lines, um, and it still happens that way. So I didn't stop, and I just still have it, and it's been now 5 or 6 years.
That's awesome. That's all. That was one of the first things I remember seeing is what is the Queen Afua book, and we have it here too, so I know exactly how much of a power portal that book is. You know what I mean? It's been, I mean, just the person, the author, Queen Afua, she's been in this space and making contributions to people's healing for decades. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And that book is super powerful. So that's awesome. And I know it's helping a lot of people because I see the comments and I see the reactions and everything to people being exposed to this type of information. Some of them may never actually have been able to pick up the book and read it for themselves, but to be able to tap into somebody on social media reading the book for you, that's dope. That's a privilege.
Oh yeah, I love it. I've had a lot of people admit that they don't know how to read, and ask me what books I'll be getting next so that they're ready. And I'd heard that illiteracy is a problem in our neighborhoods, but I guess you just don't know how real it is unless it touches you, personally. But now there are people who I've known that have been in my life forever that can admit that they just struggle with it. They always have, and thankfully most everything has pictures. um
Right,
so it's good to just heal things that, like you said, people aren't really willing to say they're hurting yet.
right. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to admit. You know what I mean? And also when you don't have a path to figuring out where it comes from, it kind of just seems like it just is what it is. But if you have something you can attach it to and you can point out experiences or people who may have contributed to where you are, I think that makes it a lot easier to understand. It really comes down to just how the brain works. A lot of this stuff wasn't even meant to be harmful, but it's just the way that we process things and the way that we deal with things or not deal with things that allows it to sit around and fester and show up in other parts of your life. That's just what the brain does. It creates these patterns, and these patterns influence behaviors, and next thing you know, you holding on to something that happened to you 5, 7, 8 years ago, and it changed you so much that this new state of being has become your new personality, your whole new disposition, and you could track it back to
Mm.
one experience, a long time ago. So just being able to see that is definitely opening up a lane for people to take this shit seriously. It's a new paradigm. I think the atmosphere that we're in right now is built for healing. It's not all of that fighting and struggling and shit is old paradigm. It's trying to, it's leaving, kicking and screaming, but it's still leaving. I think this is a atmosphere for healing and for evolution. I think that's why this conversation is taking place in so many places. It's the same shit Joe Rogan's talking about. He's just attributing it to DMT and stuff like that. It's a lot of people having the same conversation right now. And I don't even think people really notice. A lot of the self-help books are evolving from just saying, do this, do that, invest your money. Now they're talking about meditation and quieting your mind and visualizing your success before you actually have it. And it's talking about a lot of basically metaphysical, spiritual concepts on the self-help side of the game. That's becoming the most mind area sort of expertise for the people who are writing this material right now. So I think that's a powerful, positive change for sure, 100%.
I do. I really feel like if we taught self science and metaphysics, as early as those of us who are enlightened teach our children, then of course, we wouldn't have the same hells we have. You
Right.
know, I do feel like that's what's different. I was just talking to my 12-year-old who is a Pisces the other day, and her father's a Leo, and she says she just loves poking at him. She doesn't know why. She's like, I just get a thrill out of it. And I said, and you do realize that he's genuinely irritated by it. She says, yes. And I said, and that's because he's a lion. A Leo is a lion. And you're a fish. And as a fish, your eyes aren't even in front of you like most of us. So you don't see things the same way. you know? And I'm
Right.
just trying to teach her elementary concepts about how to know the science of people. The science of people. There's a way to know and not even manipulate how to direct interactions. And you know this by being aware of the science. Like you said, generational curses and sins of the father falling on the son. You're right. If these were common conversations, then fewer of us would hurt, and more of us would be able to admit when we are.
Facts. Facts. I love it. So do you have do you, I know you said you don't like to box yourself in with, how you describe your position and the work that you're doing, but do you have like a highest self visualization, like a major goal or vision for where you see yourself in the future, the culmination of everything that you're building right now?
Um, I don't. I'm open, so I don't quite know the shape, but I do know. I do know that Marcus Garvey is the apple of my eye.
Mm.
Um, when I came into my enlightenment, and I didn't know where. I don't have a history, so I'm African, but I don't know from where. My grandmother don't know. My great grandmother gone. I felt lost, and then I discovered Marcus Garvey, and he gave me a flag, and that was the most beautiful gift anybody had ever given me. A man who lived years before me left a love note for me, and it inspired me. I want to leave a mark here. It's important to me that my daughters 40, 50 years from now, my great great granddaughters have a print. I need them to see my love. And I mean that for all of my people, period. No matter where they are in the world, no matter how many years later after I'm gone, I need them to be able to read my love note. So I'm open.
That's dope. As though, well, I think you building something already that's going to end up. I mean, everything you've done already is legacy shit. Period. You know what I'm saying? Opening yourself up to help people like that selflessly. That's legacy shit. You know what I mean? That's a strong foundation to build on. So it's only up from here.
That's peace.
Well, that was the last of the questions that I had planned that I really really wanted to ask. So, I mean, I think you answered everything beautifully. It was excellent. And did you have any inquiries for the dangerous gentleman? Anything you want to ask us?
When can I be back? When can I be back?
Well, are we always open? I mean, to be completely honest, we just get on here and talk some shit every now and then, and
Pop
every
shit.
and sometimes we stumble onto some powerful stuff, and it's really just about keeping the lines of communication open. We're trying to figure things out as we go, developing intellectual properties and making plans for this compound and a whole bunch of really dope shit. So anytime you got space to hop on, if you want to read something, whatever, it's always open. The platform is always open. You just let me know and you can come back whenever you want to.
Oh, that's peace. I would love to come back. I'm so grateful for your energy today, both of you. I love you.
Well, we
Well, we love
appreciate
you
you.
too.
Always love, always respect. I love what you're doing. Stay empowered. You know what I mean? I'm sure you will anyway. But and like I said, line of communication is always open if you ever need anything. Matter of fact, how's the book coming along?
It's going great. I'm in editing. I know I said I would send it to you for the beta reading, and and I decided to make some edits first. Crazy enough, I was talking to my spiritual mother, my godmother, recently, and she let me cry for 30 minutes, let me air out everything I was feeling and going through. And at the end, she's like, "So basically, what I'm hearing is you're scared and you're lazy." I'm like, "Shit, God damn."
Leave it to the yeah.
Yeah,
That's
leave
real
it to
shit.
God, Mama.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. I've been afraid. I've been afraid. Spirit did take it a new way. It was very topical at first. It was lighthearted. It was fun. And Spirit has asked me to dig a little deeper. She's asking me to address things that I purposely left out. Um, so I'm in editing, but this one particular chapter is in rewrite. But stay on my ass, Don. Stay on my ass because I need to send it to you. I'd rather you on my
Yeah.
ass than God, Mama.
Well, every now and then I'm gonna send you a passive aggressive GIF or something like to let you know I'm still waiting on that proofread opportunity. You know what I'm saying? But everything in good time, all fruit in due season.
I say.
So I don't want to be too pushy, but I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out for sure.
Oh yeah, we leave for Ghana on March 9th. Me and the coven.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm hues the blues and fuck yous. It should be out before we leave. That's the goal still. Pre-sale should be available before we leave. Still.
Right. Well, yeah, let's send some empowering energy to that. I'm sure the universe is going to see that loop closed exactly when it's supposed to be. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure I'll be speaking to you pretty frequently between now and the time you leave anyway. But yeah, I definitely appreciate you taking some time out to talk to us today. It's been awesome. I appreciate you.
All right, you guys take it easy.
All right, I'll
You
let you
too.
go. All right, bless. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bless.
Peace.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, that was dope. That was dope. I think the Danger Gents needed some. It was about time we had some divine feminine energy on the
Well, we've
show. You know what
had,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
it's been nothing but dicks. Just dick after dick after dick.
Literally and figuratively.
In all ways. In all ways. Dicks have been the ubiquitous theme throughout. So yes. It
Yeah,
was
man.
very nice to have some feminine energy.
Yeah, man. That's she's powerful, dude. I mean, I watch a lot of stuff she does, and I just think it's dope because I don't see a lot of people, especially in my circle of friends, my timeline. I just don't see a lot of people putting that type of effort into trying to help other people bring themselves up, and it's hard to build that kind of thing, man. Because I mean, even I know this all the time. If you post a picture of a kitten or something like that, or a joke, people will respond to it. People talk about it. They like it. They put laugh emojis and shit like that. But if talk about something that's a little bit too deep, or if you post something about a business you're trying to grow, people just be like,
The
I didn't
first
catch that.
instinct is to mock it.
Yeah,
It's to mock it because, in some way or another, it brings about a degree of conviction where especially when you're talking about healing or anything positive. Like we're just, it's such a cynical culture that we're in right now. Like it's just, and plus the internet amplifies that, to the umpteenth degree. But I mean, it also, you're going to confront something about yourself that you're going to be uncomfortable with if you keep pulling at that thread. So I think the way that a lot of us kind of protect ourselves from dealing with that kind of shit is the instinct is just to mock it.
right,
Like,
right,
yeah, yeah, whoa,
right.
whoa.
Until something happens significant enough to change people's opinions, which is why I was talking about the ground cover recently. You know what I mean? Sometimes it
Yeah,
is empowering and powerful to the endeavor that you on is to just not even worry about it. Just keep hacking away, keep building it, keep stacking the bricks. And eventually people are going to tap you on the shoulder like, hey, what are you doing over there? Like,
right.
oh, I totally forgot. I've been building this fucking empire. I forgot to post it on Twitter.
Yeah, you want a blue vanilla banana? It's delicious. Fucking
Yeah, I got a
delicious.
whole backyard full of them now. Yeah,
I got
that's the
about
power move.
yeah, and I just love her swag. It was like and I mean it in like a complimentary way, not a disparaging way. It was like the missing member of Diggable Planets. Like she
Right.
used to be in, you know what I mean? She had some other stuff to do. It was like I'm not gonna be able to get to the studio. You guys just go with it. I love that swag and energy. Yeah, she was super cool. There
Yeah,
was
yeah.
some stuff where it was like, my first instinct is to, woo woo, but even if I don't agree like with the zodiac stuff or anything, at the end of the day, like I'm refocusing my mind on who cares?
Right.
Like who cares if you don't agree with that, or maybe there's something I don't know about that it would change my mind if I got that missing piece of information. But at the end of the day, I'm working to disarm that part of my brain that would potentially prevent me from taking in the positive moral of the story type stuff. The
Right.
bottom line, like this is an overall positive. This is something that's dope that people need, and this is who cares. Like, and even as kind of a silly thing where you don't have to agree with everybody on everything to embrace and look for things where it's like, okay, we have common ground here. I could get behind that. That's dope. And even if you don't agree on a million and one things, if there's just one thing that, let's partner our resources, we agree on this, let's make this happen. That's got to be a part of this new paradigm too, where instead
Right.
of we're all kind of scrutinizing each other's ideologies to figure out whether or not we can be involved. Like, nah, man, stop
Yeah.
that. Gravitate towards the positive.
Yeah, later for that shit, dude. It don't. It's not worth it. And I think if we learning anything about where science is going, where what metaphysics and spirituality all converging right now, we got to let people use whatever mechanisms is creating positive change in their life. You know what I'm saying? Like if you trying to stop somebody else from improving by telling them that this thing that they doing don't work. Like I gotta feel like they gotta come to the conclusion that it don't work on their own. And I know how some shit scares people, especially people who have monotheistic religious backgrounds. You know, if they come to your house or something, you got an altar set up in the corner. You know, they're automatically going to think this is not only something that don't work, they think it's something that's anti-God. And I think that's where a lot of this judgmental shit comes from. If you thought it was just some benign thing that they were doing, it's like, yeah, I got a stack of marbles and I shake this bottle around every morning before I leave because it gives me good luck. I don't think people would argue too much with them. Like, nah, you know, shaking marbles in a bottle don't really do. Nobody would care. But it's the things that they think are outside what's acceptable to these religions and shit like that. That's really the root of trying to stop people from using those types of mechanisms. And if you're getting positive results, I ain't got shit to say. I'm like, yo, go
It
for it.
it absolutely is. And the funny thing about it is a lot of that comes from cultural things. It's not even in people's dogma for the most part. Like, okay, you making fun of people, rolling this or rolling that. That was like some shit the priests used to do in the Old Testament. It was called like the Urim and the Thummim or some shit. I don't remember the names of it, but they used to roll dice to get answers from God.
Right. Yeah,
That
yeah,
that
yeah.
that was a thing. That was
Yeah.
so. It's like, oh, how dare you? That's absurd. Yeah, you used to do it. You just forgot that you used to do it.
All
You
right.
changed it up a little bit,
It's
and
been
it's
happening all over the world. People throwing bones and shit and reading the stars. And this has existed forever, and then
yeah,
it gets trickled down and refined and refined and refined. And next thing you know, shit's removed from the list. Now the only thing you can do is get in the booth with a man and tell him what you did last week or some shit like that. And that's supposed to be the path to bettering yourself and whatever. I think
and,
anybody who's doing good for themselves, screw it.
yeah, that's where I'm at too. Is I'm not too dogmatic about anything other than just being cool as fuck. That's it. That's
Right.
that's that's the whole of the law.
Right.
That's it. Just be
Right.
cool as fuck. Be good to people. Be nice to people where you can help and empower people, and just denounce wickedness, and not in some sort of grandiose, like standing on a soapbox and calling some shit out. Just tune it out and don't participate in it. Like I'm not even saying, hey, let's take up arms. And no, 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 no. You don't even have to do that. But just where you think denouncing wickedness is like, okay, you're doing this ritual or this practice wrong. Like, nah, that
Right.
don't mean shit to me. Like, if you're talking about cultural expressions of ideas and concepts and not doing the right regimen, that's some religious shit I can't get behind. But if we can universally be like, okay, well, I'm gonna throw these little dice. You could throw bones. You read the stars. Whatever. If we can agree that love and kindness and goodness is good, and exploitation and violence and all this shit is bad, then what else is the other shit? All the ancillary shit, it really doesn't matter. It's really
Right.
unimportant. And not only that, when you start taking things in literally, I mean, if you're going by any kind of religious literacism, I don't even know if that's a word. If it's not, I coined it. It's mine, and if you use it, you owe me money.
Sue you.
Um, yeah, sue you. See you in court, you son of a bitch. And like if we take a lot of the old shit, completely literal, like God ain't talking to you if you got a dick skin. Moses, I'm gonna kill your baby unless you take off the dick skin. David, you want to marry my daughter? I need you to chop off 200 dick skins as payment so that I can give you my daughter so she can be your property. Like, there's just some weird shit um when you start trying to meld everything to culture. And what I kind of like about a lot of the shit in the New Testament is that it's all about having principles transcend culture. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you got this idea in the Old Testament, and yeah, it is about creating order and making sure people behave and treat each other nice, but you've missed the point of it. You've made it completely exclusive to your culture and not a universal principle. Like, I got to show you, that okay, you're God's chosen beverage, but maybe that's not all it's cracked up to be. So I'm gonna sit down with this Samaritan woman. I'm gonna go hang out with this half breed so that it can be super duper offensive to you. I'm gonna tell you a story about a Levite, and the Levite's a fucking piece of shit. but this filthy Samaritan, they went over and they helped the person. You know, and you take it for granted now, but you see, like, humanity's always been struggling with the same bullshit. Like, you got to get through people's heads to get them out of their tribalism and get out of their own like cultural commitments to see the bigger picture, or their cultural, not commitments, but hang-ups. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Like who cares? Who cares if you got your dick skin or you don't have your dick skin? Who
Right.
cares if you eat pork or you don't eat pork? That shit doesn't matter. That's some cultural, ritualistic type shit that maybe your geography or your ethnicity would dictate how you're gonna feel about that. But that ain't got shit to do with if you're good to people or if you're down to exploit people for coins. You know, that's the shit righteous
Yeah.
people need to either be unified in in opposition of or in service of. Is just the principles. All the cultural shit is meaningless.
It is. It absolutely is. And I don't even understand why we're so caught up in this shit, especially because most people who would hold those really stringent, hard, fast rules for other people's lives, they don't even really
Ain't
apply it to
doing
themselves. Right. You know what I'm
nine
saying? We already know.
out of 9.5. Yeah.
Dude, we already know. Because, I mean, just one thing off the top that I can say is you can pretty much guarantee with 100% certainty that anybody who's out here saying, you know, condemn gay people, they need to burn in hell, you about to get caught in an all gay orgy at a hotel somewhere. Like, we already know that.
It's happening
It keeps happening. It keeps happening.
with
The
such
people,
frequency. You can set your watch by it. It's predictable. All right, when did this dude said that he hate the gays? All right, six
right.
months. Let's look for that
Countdown.
news report. When did he get caught in the hotel with meth and the male hooker? When did it happen?
Dude, listen. e- Every single time I see it, I don't take note, but I just make a mental, check mark. Like, yep, that guy's gay. That guy. I can't imagine why you would have so much anger over what somebody else is doing with their own life. Like, I get it a little bit more. Like, if you're talking about, the gay parade and shit, the guys with the assless chaps in front of the kids, like that's a different conversation. I kind of, get where you're going with it. I don't necessarily agree, but I get where you're going. But just to be in the world existing,
And
and
there's a counter for that, though. There's a counter for that. Have a straight parade where everybody has really pronounced like fake penises and giant vagina lips. Like you could do the same. Like the gay pride parade. It's obnoxiously sexual. You know what I'm saying? And if you're offended by it, that's okay. They have the freedom to have your parade. Have a super heterosexually obnoxious parade. If that's what the fight is about. If that'll make it okay for you to
right,
feel like culturally you're represented.
aggressive heterosexual parade.
Just have a float with just this giant dick towering up to the heavens, you know, and it's just and it's shooting, I don't know, like whipped cream, so it's
That
fun
fake
for all the
snow,
kids. It's
the
just
fake
landing on
snow
people.
is coming out of
You
it
put the snow machine in it. The fake
inside.
snow machine is just shooting out of the dick, the giant dick, and then you'd be,
I
okay, you
feel like
guys
that's
got
still the gay
assless
parade,
chips,
though. I feel like that's still the gay parade. We're gonna have to add
right?
some type of feminine principle to that to make those people happy. Or would they? Actually, most of the people who are mad at the gay parade
You
would
know what?
probably be happy
That'll
at
be
seeing a towering penis spitting snow.
And
I
right,
don't
the
think they'd
gay
be too
people
mad
to
at that.
show up and be like, "Oh, so this is our parade?" No, this is the
No,
heterosexual parade. You
can't you
guys were here
see?
last week and asked this chaps.
Like, I think this one kind of fits the bill too, buddy.
You
No,
know
no,
what?
this is clear
just
penis.
just so that you feel that your children aren't going to be corrupted by the evil homosexuality, and you don't have to hate them and be secretly gay and preach against them. Just have a parade. Just it's a giant dick, and in real time, it's just going in and out of a giant vagina. So
Right
so
there you go.
that could be. This is how it should be. You can make your proclamation and you can have it out there. That would be much better. That'll be much better than Atlas Chaps. It's just full on simulated hardcore sex on a pillow parade in the middle of a parade, and then children will know. Children will know.
Aggressive too,
That's
because you can't be happy about it. You can't be happy.
no,
This is a counter parade.
but
This ain't actually a parade; it's a counter parade. So you don't be grinning and all doing all this lovely, smooth shit. You got to be pounding with a straight face, staring
no,
at the crowd.
no.
This
It's
is how it's supposed to be.
I just think if you're talking about for the wear and tear on the mechanical components. Because if you're designing those parade floats, like they're not, they do it like maybe a couple months at the most. You know what I'm saying? I just think from an engineering perspective, you're not going to want it pounding. It needs to be something slow and steady so that all the moving parts are, lasting throughout the parade.
No
We
man,
don't
slow
want
and
anything
steady.
too violent because then
Slow and
you're gonna
steady
have
sounds kind of gay.
if you're gonna have lawsuits if the shit blows up or pounds it so hard that parts of the float are flying out in the crowd and maiming children. It
Wow.
could go bad. Yeah,
Oh,
just have your heterosexual parade and just stop being closeted gays hating other gays. That just seems silly. It
yeah, it's
seems
so
silly.
silly, bro. Just get with the program. Just who even cares anymore? Just let people do what they do. I feel like, and that's with everything. When you have to look over at somebody else's life to complain about how wrong that is, I feel the same way about people. There's people who make an entire career on YouTube about what race should be dating what race, or how these men only they like fat women, and that's disgusting. It's like, buddy, why do you even care?
Well,
I
you
don't
but
understand.
but you shouldn't date outside of your race or date fat women. I mean, we can all agree on that. So I don't. Those might be two bad examples.
Those are two terrible examples,
but,
because
but in other
obviously,
things, I know what you mean. For other things, where people are just being intrusive and nosy into your own, and usually it's not, critiquing something without promoting any good. Like the first thing that I thought of, because I already know, like she would be immediately dismissed, by a lot of religious circles because one, she referred to God as a woman. The spirit was given a feminine,
right,
uh,
right,
which we've thrown that out of the window thousands of years ago. So we don't. But that's one thing, and also the polyamory. It's immoral, and all those kinds of things are going to be hurled against
even
it.
though the preacher's banging everybody's wife,
Right, 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 right.
and
But
the
but
original gods were women.
Right, but at the end of the day, right? If she's being open and honest and she's operating with a spiritual animus that's compelling her to heal people and to be kind to people and to live in such a way that she's inspiring and developing the people around her to be more moral and righteous people, then, you know, I got to look at that and I got to ascribe a higher value to that than just moralizing. You're
Right.
doing this ritual wrong. You're accepting this idea wrong. You know what I'm saying? When you start talking about engaging in behavior that's causing people to suffer, now we're having a different conversation.
Right.
But if you're just saying from this one cultural context, from this one cultural perspective, we've ascribed a value to everything of what's good and what's bad, on the things that really don't matter, are you circumcised, you not circumcised, are you eating this animal or not this animal? Those things people really tend to like love the smell of their own shit, and it's like the things that really matter that are the most pronounced and the most there's they're given a place of particular esteem, what I'm saying, of being selfless, of being kind, of being loving toward, people just kind of glaze over that, you know what I'm saying, and they tend to trivialize it when it's coming from people that aren't subscribing to the same cultural rituals,
Right.
or cultural norms. And it's like if that's the paradigm from which you're evaluating righteousness and judging people, it's like I feel like you've missed the whole point of it. So like even from a traditional Judeo-Christian perspective, if you're actually reading the Bible, a lot of this shit that people are throwing out there is completely full of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Without it, I don't see none of these Bible thumping doofuses worried about eating shrimp at that Chinese buffet they go to, them crab legs and all that shit.
Everybody
It's
loves shrimp.
and wearing mixed fabrics and shit. Like just a bunch of arbitrary rando shit that's supposed to be handed down from a cosmic being. Like I feel like if there's a cosmic being out there making the rules about who's going to live in eternal happiness or who's going to live in eternal suffering, and it comes down to, how much extra meat you have on your tip of your penis, and mind you, extra meat that he gave you in the first place and now requires you to cut it off. I feel like if that's where you if that's where you hinge your argument, we can slide your shit all the way off the table, because none of that feeds into whether or not you're a decent person, what type of impact you have on the people around you. None of that. We're talking about
Surplus
goofy
penis
shit.
meat is great.
Have you ever had sex before you were married? What the fuck
Right.
does that have to do with anything? Like
And
it just doesn't. It doesn't. Period.
well, people, but it's also from the paradigm of women as property. Like
Yes.
that's what never kind of gets fully discussed when you're talking about some and I would sure if we had her, and we'll have her on again, but if we start mining that, I'm sure if she's referring to, you know, the spirit as a woman and thing, I'm sure that's some part of it, right? There's some
Yeah.
sort of rebellion towards a lot of those antiquated concepts about men and women, where women are in a clear position of subjection. I mean, even when you go to a wedding today, the father gives away the bride. I mean, and
Right.
if you
Right.
really look at it on some primal crime, you know, some you know, primal caveman shit, it's like, here, she belongs to me. I made her with my testicles. Now you can have her. She's your possession and responsibility now. Make sure your father sends me a goat because you're buying a woman.
Right.
Nobody's, but you don't get a dowry for a dude,
Yeah.
right?
It's ridiculous.
The dude's not the possession. This is a thing. It's called a
Right.
woman. It's a thing, and you own her, and I'm giving her away to you so that you can pound her and make more children that you can give away and sell for goats. Like, it's just really, and people say, "Oh, that's crazy. That's such a stupid way to." Yeah, but if you think it's stupid, but you're still completely comfortable with acting out the allegory of it, like the whole wedding ritual is the remnants of that, you know, reality, right? And nobody was like, it's kind of silly that I give you away like you're a possession. And that's what it's called. You give away the bride.
Right. It's
And you
silly.
didn't even give her away. You sold her for some goats.
It's horrible. But people, they, I think so many men still accept that idea of, ownership and objectification of women, that they don't dare try to examine that shit and look at it any other way, because it's going to threaten, like the whole situation she broke down with the being in an open
Right.
polyamorous relationship, but drawing the line at your lady having sex with another dude while you're not present. Like that's where the line is drawn. You have sex with other
Oh,
women while she's not present. She can
right.
probably have sex with other women when you're not there. Y'all all have sex with women together. So why is it this one variation
Right.
of the this one thing is like, oh, done, can't do it, because it's psychological. And I totally understand it. Don't get me wrong, because me and my lady have spoken about, just the concept of polyamory before. Not polyamory, actually polygamy, like, multiple wives, because polyamory is just everybody, multiple
Right.
everything. But we've spoken about it before, and I told her I understand it as an economic plan. I understand if we have, if you have a wife who's best with taking care of children, but you also have a wife who's a dope accountant and she can take care of the books and shit like that, and you have a wife that works in another place and she can bring some money in. Like there's a whole lot of different ways it can be a powerful institution that can help raise a family unit up faster and higher than it would if it was just two people, because you don't have to hire a babysitter. You don't have, there's a lot of things that go into that. So I
Right.
completely understand it from that point of view. But I also see it as problematic because a lot of these guys don't even have solid foundational relationships with a woman, but they're looking for
Right.
multiple wives just right
Right.
off the bat. It's like, how do you expect to build a solid relationship with three women at the same time? Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe there's some guys out there that got that much game and testosterone that they could pull it off, but it just seems a little weird to me. It seems greedy. So, but when I think about it, especially with moving towards the shit that we talk about, because I'm all in as far as the cult and the compound goes. So, especially moving towards that situation, this is a constant. This is something that's going to come up. People are going to ask about it. They're going to ask if is there that type of shit going on. For me, it goes both ways with polygamy, because I would be just as worried about doing something like, bringing in a third person and that end up being like a rock in my wife's shoe, Like she said it was
Right.
cool and it felt everything was fine, but then over time it starts to eat away at her. So like I wouldn't want to risk that, first of all. Second of all, I also understand that it's only fair. There's no logical, especially if we're not talking about having kids. There's no logical reason why if I can have sex with another woman, she can't have sex with another man. Like
Yeah, you
I have
can't
no
defend it.
grounds. Yeah, I have
Right.
no grounds to defend it. So I'm like, let's, you know what? Let's just I think it's probably better if we stick to what we're doing. We've been pretty successful at that. I don't think I want to roll a dice on that kind of shit anymore. And honestly, both of those situations make my fucking stomach hurt. Both of them. I don't want to. I would never want to accept. At least not where I am now. Who knows what'll happen after you take ayahuasca and shit. But at least where I am now, I wouldn't want my wife having sex with nobody else, male or
Right.
female. You know what I'm saying? And I also
See,
wouldn't
I'm
want
not
her.
there. See, I felt just like um her husband in that my girl could suck titties and eat box all day. I wouldn't give a shit. I wouldn't give a shit if I couldn't be involved, because I would probably be too tired. So I
Right?
can't like
Low T.
just one woman, I'm good. I gotta please both of them. Like it would probably just be all three of us just all together eating box. It's all it'd be. I'd be too exhausted. If I was gonna participate, that would probably be the capacity in which I would be participating.
That's all I
But
got for you.
but if I'm being honest, it doesn't bother me at all for her to be with the woman at all. Like, and I know dudes say, "Oh, well, da da da." Listen, not at all. It doesn't bother me. I could give less than a fuck. But something about a dude, and you say, "Well, it's penetration, right?" I don't know. It's just something about another dick being involved that rubs me the right way. And not even for lack of, I wanted to word it that way, not for lack of a better way to say it. The dick rubs me the wrong way. It's just something about it. Like she's with a girl, the girl got her tongue up there, or fingers, or they want to play with toys. I don't care. I don't care, even though it's simulating a sex act with a dude. It's just something about it, and I do think there may be something that's hardwired into us where the reason why the analogy of the land and the oldest euphemism for fucking somebody is plow, it is very much territorial. It's
Yes.
just something, and maybe that's um, an unenlightened aspect of that traditional model, you know. But I'm right there with you in that I couldn't think of a good reason if I just get to fuck all these women, but she can't be with somebody who's way studlier than me. Like, no, 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 it's just all mine. And it
Yeah.
is. It's from a place of, and it's just like with anything, put a knife to your throat if you be given the appetite. Anything that you have an appetite for has the potential to corrupt and ruin everything. And it's
Yeah.
not just women. It's money. It's access to things, access to trinkets, access to luxuries, access to women. And so it really, the pitfall has to do with appetites. And however that manifests itself could absolutely destroy something that's powerful and beautiful and beneficial to people. And I do think a lot of people start out with the right mindset. And because they haven't dealt with their appetites, they get to that other side of things. And now they start having access and they just get out of control.
Right.
It's not unlike them, 30 for 30 broke. You know what I'm saying? You come from a place where you haven't been dealing with money. Your parents didn't have a lot of money, so they didn't really teach you how to deal with it. Now all of a sudden you're worth millions and millions of dollars. And you can fuck anybody you want. And you can have basically anything that you want. So without any of those other steps to get to that level, here, just have access to this and manage it. Most people can't handle it. It's too much. So really cultivating the proper character first and having that plan and dealing with your appetites ahead of time, I think ensures the success of any enterprise you're going to take on and the authenticity of it so that it doesn't become corrupt and just becomes, you know what I'm saying, Bongo's fuck fest of having white slaves work his fields and he just fuck everybody's wife.
We over here fucking and taking mushrooms. What y'all doing?
Don't tell me I'm not keeping it real. I got 38 white farm workers and I'm fucking all of their wives,
That's the
all of the
wokest shit
Karens,
you can
all
do,
of their
bro.
Susans.
It's the wokest shit you and the government can't fuck with me. They can't fuck with me, bro. You can't David Koresh me. I'm black. That'd be the most racist act the government's ever done.
Oh,
You
dude,
can't
they
bother
couldn't
me.
send in the feds. They
They
couldn't.
can't.
They couldn't
It's
have the
that's
ATF
bad
outside.
PR, bro. That's way bad PR.
Totally bad. All you got to do is walk out there to be like, "What's that goofy Jewy dude with the glasses doing back there?" No, 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 no. He's not leading the cult. And then you just step out there.
It's
Pack it up, boys.
with
Yeah,
the
this is
dashiki moo on.
yeah. This is a headline risk. Let's pack it up before the
Yeah.
press gets here.
Yeah, it's nothing to see
Yeah,
here. Just leave them
yeah,
alone. But
great.
yeah, I totally get it, man. I get it. I get where the confusion comes from. So, but I think people are gonna learn a lot about this shit in the near future because when you get in these type of paradigm shift situations, when things are changing socially, culturally, that's one of the things that men are having to deal with big time right now. And it's actually, it's men and women are dealing with it simultaneously, but men feel like the victims of it more. Is women having that type of liberation and that type of sexual access and refusing to be labeled for it and like all of this shit, and men are all over the internet with their red pill fucking whatever you call it. They're trying to shame them back into submission, and
Right.
most women aren't having it. And I'm sorry to tell these dudes, but the women who are trying to position themselves to be traditional are probably over 40 with 2 kids already, because they feel like they have to do something specific to appeal to these guys. So those are the women who, but the other younger females, they don't give a shit. They're doing whatever they want to do, and probably rightfully so. They're gonna, I mean, it could be consequences. They got to deal with it, but that's fair. The consequences are fair because consequences exist for both of us. And men haven't been beating down other men's doors to tell them not to be promiscuous in their young life because it's going to fuck up their pair bonding ability when they get older. It's true, but nobody's saying it. They're
But
just like, oh, he's got to be a man. Just let him do what he does. But when it comes to women exercising that same freedom, everybody gets pissed about it, and it's not a good look right now.
But that's always something that I thought with like people, sow your wild oats. It's like, so okay, the women can't fuck anybody, right? Or it's the worst thing ever. But your young sons, he should go and fuck everybody that he can. So
Right? Who's he gonna be
whose
fucking?
daughter is he fucking? Who's by your own standard, he's not ruining their life.
Yeah, some
You know what I'm
poor
saying? Like,
bastard
there's
didn't
gonna
raise
be,
his daughter
as
right.
long as it's not my daughter, but my son can go out there and make casualties out of everybody else's daughter
Right.
and ruin their. It's just silly. It's indefensible.
It's
It
facts.
is a hugely hypocritical double standard, and I think maybe what's going on for women at the end of the day, we may not necessarily conclude that is healthy. It may not lead a majority of women to be happy that way.
Yeah.
I think for most women, their happiness, if unless they're completely just obsessed with like materialism and status, I think most women are just happy with a dick, a loyal dick.
You know
You
what?
know,
I think you know what the scariest outcome of this whole experiment probably is for most men is that there's no definite outcome at all. There's going to be women who have 78 sex partners before she's 25, and then she's going to settle down and be a great wife to some guy later on in life. And then there's going to be women who didn't bang anybody and saved herself for marriage, and then she's going to fuck all your friends because she just needed to scratch that itch. There's going to be no like hands down,
nothing
yeah,
predictable can
right,
come out of
nothing
this. Yeah,
predictable. It's just going to be like maybe people are just people, and they're all different, and
we're not ready for that.
and different experiences will
Have you
affect
not
different
been
people.
listening? Women are things. They're
Yeah,
things that we
my
give
bad.
away.
My bad. My bad. I forgot about that. I got to keep that in mind. Women are objects and not people. I'm
It,
sorry,
it is. It is written
dude.
before it
The
is written.
I feel like there's something very similar down this thread of women being subjugated, very similar to if you pull on that thread of who enslaved who first.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I feel like somewhere throughout history, women knew exactly who they were and they knew exactly what their power was. And men was like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I don't like this. We've
Yeah.
been building these female gods. She got a reverse harem in there. It's 40 dudes with boners, and she just laying in there, just, and I'm out here cooking the food and shit. Something was mixed up in a way that is a polar opposite of what they've been trying to do with women for the last few hundred years. I feel like, and you know what? I'm willing to guarantee almost every man has had a glimpse of it. I think the deep fear in most men is to, accept the realization of the insatiability of women. I feel like accepting that is one of the hardest things that a man is going to do. We somewhere you have to understand that, yeah, she might be enjoying herself. You know, you might have been with her long enough to know every button to push, or you just a man like that. You just got it like that. You can just do. But the reality of the situation is, when you're done and you're asleep, she can probably do the same thing to three more guys.
Right.
You can line them up and she'll just knock them down. And that is heartbreaking for men, because you want to think you pounding it out. You want to think, you know, oh yeah, I killed it, bro. I killed. And she, you know, deep down, she's like, well, I could probably,
You
you know,
don't have enough. She's loyal to you because she loves
she
you.
loves you, bro.
Not because she can't get more dick. Not because she couldn't potentially take more dick after you wore her out for
Right.
7.5 minutes. She could
Right.
probably still handle more.
Right. Right. Different sizes, different shapes, tall guys, short guys. If she wanted to, she'd line them up. She'll knock them
Right.
down. And that's a hard thing for men
Right.
to
So,
chew on.
but so in a world where she's empowered and safe and free to do that, maybe you'll be a little more appreciative. Maybe lying for side pussy just doesn't seem like it's really worth it at that point. When you're confronted with the reality, like, she could do it to you, she could do it easier, she could do it better. Because after you cheat, you're exhausted.
Right.
You can only cheat with so many side bitches before your balls are just drained. She could take so many more dicks and still be just fine.
Ready to go.
Ready
and
to
pop up the
go.
next morning and make coffee, bro.
Hey, there's pancakes. You want some
that's a rough
pancakes?
one. I think that's the root of this shit with men. They don't
You
want to
might be
accept.
right.
They don't want to accept that shit. How powerful women really are, and they decide to let us, you know, quote unquote, lock them down and shit. That's her choice. That's not your choice, because she'll always have options. And maybe if you want to keep it all the way real, who knows? Maybe even better options. If you want to look at just data and
Right.
metrics, not what a relationship means, because that's metaphysical shit. She could just love you specifically, regardless of what your
Right.
freaking pipe is
But
shaped like or how
somebody's
tall
got a
you
bigger
are.
dick.
Right.
Somebody's got
Got
more
more
money,
money.
more
Exactly.
accomplished,
So
more
on
powerful.
paper, he could be like, I'm better. You know what I mean?
Right.
And she could be like, okay, well, I'll give you a shot. I'll let him have it for a week, see what he does for me, blah, blah, blah. And dudes, that shit is heartbreaking.
Right.
To the most alpha of
I'll be
alpha.
back in a week. I'm gonna see how it works out.
Yeah.
Watch the kids, honey.
Yeah. And then you cry for a week.
Right.
Hoping that she comes back. And this is I think this is where this shit is coming from.
Ooh,
I don't
and
think it's
super
always
damaging
been.
to the ego.
Yeah, I don't think it's always been the way it is now. Because why I don't see a world where we are just like blindly, aggressively patriarchal and also praying to pregnant, round, fat female
Absolutely not.
deities.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So there was
Absolutely
definitely a
not.
time when the woman was seen as the most divine being on the planet. You know, even look at that. The gods that were attributed to women were just women, just big, round, long-breasted, women. But once men started depicting themselves as gods, they got wings and eagle heads and shit like that. Like, they had to they had to do a bunch of fancy shit to make it a god. The woman
Yeah,
was just
dick's a
God
goof.
in her
Let's
natural
throw it.
state.
Let's throw in some wings. Let's get an eagle head, a lion
Right.
head.
Right. We're gonna need some extra, because we can't just be a
Yeah.
dude.
Can't just have these goofy dicks just out here peeking out.
But for thousands of years, it was just a round woman with a big belly and huge boobs. That was God. So that should tell you right there. I think that's why I don't even like to make the separation in the word. Like, even saying the word goddess makes me feel like we've been misled. I feel like the original term God, it was probably them in the first place.
Yeah, and there's it's that's all alluded to.
Oh yeah,
When you
yeah,
start
yeah.
getting back into, in his image he made them male and female.
Right.
There was definitely some other, um, like you said, it was purposed for um other machinations and ideas. And
Right.
so this idea of that, not just women being equal but being exalted, it just didn't fit into the program.
Right.
So it had to absolutely be marginalized. but I do think you're onto something because I think our egos can't tolerate it. In fact, most of this sickness that we have, we got to kill everybody, we got to invade. You don't look like me, so fuck you. I think all of this can be traced back to our unhealthy treatment of women. It might
Definitely,
be the original Pandora's box that fucked
definitely.
everything up. When we were like, you know what? I'm bigger than you. I could just control you. I don't have to. We don't have to listen to your ideas. I don't
Right,
have to let you fuck 40 other dudes. I am now gonna be in control, and everybody's gonna do what I say. I figured out how to make a spear. I could throw it further than you. I'm gonna fuck shit up, and we're all gonna do shit my way. And
right.
so, and I think out of that, this thing is just snowballed into the fuckery that we have afoot now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And look how this wraps back around on itself, right? So we've already established that women are fundamentally insatiable, right? There's nothing you can do to uh, the the ego that it takes, the ego destruction of thinking about women having sex with other men is
Right.
also attached to men's idea that women can't detach from sex. So if she bangs another guy, she's gonna love him now. You can't fathom her, like, but we understand that men are detached from sex, so you can bang a stripper in the bathroom and then go home and still love your wife. So why can't she get banged out and still come home and love you?
Right. We're not. That's nowhere near on our radar of possibilities.
Right.
We're
You're
not
like, no,
even.
she
The
loves him now.
average
She
dude
has
ain't
to.
entertaining it. Right.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. All yeah, I think so. I think all this shit leads back to mistreatment of women. It's like that was the fall right there. Once we started
Mm,
mistreating women, everything else, everything else had to be easy after that. Because if you will mistreat the women, which are arguably probably the most prized resource that you have in your community, for their ability to not only to have children but to pass on that energy from the whole time they've been gestating, pass on all that energy to the child. They're the main teachers of the child. So if they want to raise the child to secretly hate you and cut your throat on your sleep, she can do that because you ain't paying attention. You out at the tavern and in the fields and shit. She could definitely foster a secret hatred of you to in your children. Or if you want to raise people who are strong and are gonna upgrade your life and take care of you when you get old, historically she was the one who was going to instill that in them. So if you can
mm,
start mistreating her and flexing your power over her, what won't you do to foreigners and people who don't look like you and animals and
absolutely.
shit? What won't you do to them?
Right.
So yeah, that's the fall right there, dude.
What would you not do to possibly just pillage and rape the shit out of the planet and any other planet you can get to, if
Anything.
that's your attitude? Because
Right.
if here's this creature that you relegate to a thing that you give away, and you trade for goats, but really, um, if she's your equal, but she's only your equal in principle, right? Like you have to agree that she's your equal because the moment you introduce violence into the equation, biology is such that there's nothing she can do or her options are very limited,
Right.
right? So the moment you choose to have aggression as the principle, and you introduce might makes right, like we're going to do whatever the fuck I say cuz I'm bigger and I'm stronger, you've introduced this violent principle that can corrupt everything. It corrupts how you would see okay, I got here, I discovered this land, hey, there's already people on it. Are we bigger than them? Can we kill
Right.
them? Yes, we can kill them. Cool, let's go ahead and wipe them out. It's
Right.
our shit now, we're moving in. And so you can't have respect for anything, like for the animals, for the land, for people that are less technologically advanced than you. Like you just have this thing, like if I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I can use violence to settle this dispute. That's what I'm going to do. And that's not the mark of an enlightened civilization. So to the degree that we're enlightened is to the degree that we honor and revere women as equals, or even exalt them, because we're not just boiling everything down to the brass tacks of violence.
Right. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. If you will subjugate and denigrate your natural counterpart, what won't you destroy in the world?
Right. Right.
This is your natural mirror image. And if you think about it, probably a higher version of yourself, if you really think about it, because of the ability that she has to sustain life, create life, all of that. And yeah, I know it's a tandem effort. We have to give her something for her to be able to even realize her potential. She has to have sex with a man before those other things can come into play, before those other abilities can
But
be
but but
realized.
remember, but remember, before genetic testing, those 40 dudes could have been in the temple with boners. You would have no way of knowing anyway. So yeah, you
Right.
participated, but at the end of the day, she spits out the baby. She's the main show. We all
Right.
kind of understand, even in our primal ignorance, that the life is coming from her, which is probably why those depictions of female goddess is a pregnant woman, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you imagine before people understood the science and the biology of how that happened? You just was poking around in there for a few minutes, having a great time, and now a person comes out.
Right.
Like, yo,
And you can't do it.
that's
There's never
witchcraft.
a time where your stomach gets big and all of a
Right.
sudden you're shooting out other U's. It
Right. You
just
can't
doesn't
do it.
happen.
You can't do it. We got a 3D printer over here
Right?
making people, and I don't
maybe,
know how she does it.
maybe that's where the animus behind all this like technological Luciferianism. Like we just hated the fact, like, bitch, I gotta find out how you're making these children. I gotta solve every scientific equation. I gotta unravel all of this shit, break the human genome. I gotta figure it all out. Is it
Right.
my baby or not? What's going on? I know you're insatiable. What's happening?
You was in that reverse harem for 3 months.
I'm I'm building rocket ships. I'm finding new planets to get pregnant. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna
Oh,
solve all this shit
man.
because there's nothing I can do that really. I'm gonna pretend that it does, but there's nothing that really and truly makes that seem like a trivial thing. Like as much as I can try to trivialize it with all my witty inventions, the fact that you can make other people is just more magical than anything my science has been able to accomplish.
Yeah.
And that's all a part of ego too. So yeah,
Right.
this whole shit has been in service of subjugating women and making women feel like shit and having all these double standards to really and maybe that's and because we're so fucked up and shit is and such a sickness has been introduced into humanity because women have been the ones probably most in need of healing or most acutely aware of their need for healing. It makes sense that they would be the ones most enlightened to kind of help the rest of us follow suit.
Wow. Yeah, because the healing, like I said before, it's feminine in nature. It's always kind of been theirs. It's belonged to them. They were the gateway to the healing for us. They were the original shaman. They were the original healers and the people who were, finding the herbs, and we called them witches and burned them at the stake for making tinctures and shit like that, and whatever else. And it's amazing. It's amazing. So I feel like one of the highest acts as far as evolve into the place that we need to go to is, and it's so counterintuitive to a lot of the narrative that's happening right now, but I feel like we need to be working harder to repair our relationships with women, and not just sexually romantic relationships, just with women in general. Just our whole concept and idea about who they are, the space they occupy in the world. Like, I think there's a lot that we could, and not to frame it in a selfish way, but I think there's a lot that we could mine for our own personal development by putting ourselves in service to that specifically. Service in general is what's going to help us heal and grow. Helping people who may not be able to return the favor, that just builds character and integrity. Even if you do it because you want the euphoria of knowing that you helped, that's fine. Because I think putting yourself in service of other people, and on a greater scale, just humanity as a whole, is just a good alignment to have in the world. But there's situational shit too. Like, there's specific people who may need more attention. There's specific situations that may need more attention than others, that may require us to be a little bit more functional and deliberate in that role. And I think with all these, maybe that's why these guys are fighting this shit so hard, talking about this red pill and men going their own way, MGTOW shit. Maybe that's what it is that this is that paradigm shifting, and them not wanting to be ran over by the steamroller of conceptually evolved men who understand that they need to repair a relationship with women. They're just like, nah, don't date them, only have sex with them, and marriage is going to kill you, they're going to take all your money and blah blah blah. And it's like, as true as that shit is, we evolve together. We evolve in tandem. Women can't exist in an energy or space that's all corroded and corrupted, and men are just dope, just chilling. We fine. They all fucked up. That's not that's not how this shit works. If you can look at a group of women on any mass scale numbers and shit and say that they're doing this and this all terrible shit, you can probably follow a straight line between all their actions and activities and what they got to do to survive in a society with fucking cavemen who can hit them over the head and drag them in the alley and rape them.
Right.
Like, oh, women are sneaky. You got a fucking club and you weigh 150 pounds more than her.
Right.
So yeah,
she's not going to be good. She's not going to get good at lying. Right.
Right. She might need to employ some super spy tactics so you don't crack her fucking head and rape her, bro. Maybe that's what it is. That's some serious shit. That's some serious shit. So you got to give your woman a foot rub tonight.
Yeah, that's the homework.
That's tonight's homework is do some selfless shit for your lady. Yeah, do some selfless shit for your lady. And don't brag about it. Don't tell her why you're doing it. Just do some shit, bro. And see how it feels. See if it don't make you feel dope on the other end. Like, you know how dudes will try to emasculate you for doing shit like that. Like, oh, you be rubbing her feet? Like, hell yeah, motherfucker. Yeah, I rubbed the shit out of her feet.
You ain't rubbing be in this video with us in this prison cell with your shirts off, lifting weights, bumping up against us, son. Fucking faggot.
We doing some early 90s hyper masculine DMX cosplay at the park today. You know, everybody come wear orange jumpers.
Rub that bitch's feet.
Yeah, you a sucker. I'm going to watch football.
That's the gayest shit I ever heard. That's why. Yo, who's playing in the XXXFL? What's happening?
Oh, dude.
Yo, he got penetrated on third down. B.
Get out of the way, woman.
It is. It's so silly, man.
Man, it is, dude. And we've been doing this shit for so long, and we just accept it as a rule. And that's why so much shit in our society is built around it. We kind of just, it's been a funny thing, and it's hard to break privilege. It's really, really difficult to unravel and roll back a privilege that you've identified as your own. Right. Yeah. But yeah, that's the scary part, is they're not sure that it will. They think women just gonna laugh at them and be like, "Oh, you a pussy." They probably will at first, but that's because they've internalized the misogyny and shit. You know what I'm saying? So they're gonna do to you what they think other men would do.
No, but it's a spiritual principle and an act of love to be sacrificial, to surrender the upper hand in service of the greater good. Like that's not something that people would do naturally if it's just all biology. It's winning by any means. Like, it's something that's got to be motivated by a spiritual principle. So yes, the way that, especially the more primitive of a culture you go to, the more the women seem to be less valued, or more, you know what I'm saying? Like Saudi Arabia, they still can't drive cars, without their wali around or whatever, not being able to leave the house, and silly shit where it's like you're a possession to be owned by men. You're not your own thing. But I think I lost my train of thought, so I'm just gonna go ahead and bow out of this one. I can't remember the point I was trying to make.
We're talking about why they need gender studies in Iraq.
In Pakistan.
Pakistan, why they need all that money for gender studies in Pakistan.
Yeah, because Mitch McConnell needs to launder his money, his drug money. Sometimes the CIA floods black people with crack and cocaine, and you need to be able to, you need to be able to distribute that money somewhere. You can't just say it's to sell crack to black people. You have to say it's gender study in Pakistan. Sometimes you just got to be able to launder money. You got to be able to move around.
Who cashed that check? It was some guy in Pakistan named Mitch Hamid McConnell Islam. We got footage of him, but his beard looks fake. I don't know. He looks kind of familiar.
Yeah, man. It's something that I don't know, man. I think it's definitely something that you probably will have to surrender a lot of power. And if you look at what's happened up until now, I mean, that was the whole point of not educating women, right? Or not wanting your woman to get a job. The man, I need to keep you at the house, because she literally had no options. Like if you sucked, if you were a piece of shit, there's not much you could do. Because there was a social stigma that if she went with the dude that had more to offer, was going to treat her better. She's a piece of shit. She's a harlot, you know.
Right.
So she can't just leave. And meanwhile, you're gonna fuck everyone in the office that you can, and there's nothing she just has to accept it because she can't just go out and get a job and be able to survive like she would if you're just taking care of her. And so yeah, it means you don't necessarily have to be a very good man to keep a really good woman. So yeah, I do see where it is kind of a place of privilege, and it is all the cards are kind of stacked in your favor. And you know, if there's arranged marriages and your family's brokering a deal or something that's going to result in this woman having to deal with your shit, wash your shit stains out of your drawers for the rest of her life, and there's nothing she can do about it. Yeah, that's a great system. It guarantees, that you're gonna have sex and somebody to do shit for you, and that you don't necessarily have to treat it as an equal. So yeah, if you've got the ball rolling in that direction for thousands of years, all of a sudden you're confronted with the fact that she could fuck more than you. You know what I mean? And maybe you're not as much of a stud as you think you are, and she can get a job, and she can be educated. You become more and more you become less and less important. You're not as vital to her ability to exist, which I think is the position that we've enjoyed for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So yeah, to surrender that and say, you know what, it's more, rather than me just having access to everything I want that makes me happy, that makes life convenient for me. I want you to be a fully actualized person. I want you to be able to choose to be here or not to basically be trapped here by lack of education and lack of financial resources, and basically just to deal with all of my shit. So maybe now, instead of having that structure set up where women are kind of trapped into having to be loyal to their husbands, maybe we're just gonna have to be decent fucking human beings to keep our women moving forward.
Oh no. What are we gonna do?
What are we, especially if we don't want to be decent human beings?
Exactly. That's a whole nother conversation. It's and with the hypergamy shit, it's highly unlikely, especially historically, it's highly unlikely that the person with the most resources is going to treat you better, because for one, he has so many options. What makes you special? Because all the women want to go live in his house because he can afford them. He's got the dope house. He's got security. Nobody's going to come rob him. He can protect you. He can, all that shit. So what makes you special? What makes you different from any other woman that's getting given away by her father? Second, the him accepting the idea that it's his obligation to provide for you with all the work and all the hustle, or maybe he's just fucking chopping people's heads off and taxing them and taking their money, but all the effort he's putting in to get these resources, what is he going to equate your access to them resources to? The only reason you got access to those resources is because he's banging you. You didn't do anything to help. You didn't really, you just came, you walked in and you inherited this. That's going to breed resentment over time. That's not going to make him treat you like, oh, I love her. It's like, oh, I just take care of this bitch and I bang her, so she can't really say nothing because I'll kick her out and she'll be back on the street. That's going to breed resentment almost all the time.
And it also lends itself to reinforcing that paradigm that we, people rail against, but it seems to be really effective. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So we could talk, all day about, well, a man shouldn't feel that he's just entitled and to treat women like that. But if there's enough women to reinforce that reality, like I could be an asshole, I have things, women will give me pussy, I don't have to treat them well, and if they don't like it, I can replace them with a new pussy. What is my incentive to treat any of them well if there's a big enough pool that I can pull from that I'm not going to have any problems? So, as long as there's women who are willing to fuck dudes that are pieces of shit because it gives them access to a lifestyle that's beyond what they were able to obtain on their own, like there's gonna be room for dudes to behave that way. Wow. And an incentive.
And yeah, it's worked itself out. It's fulfilled itself in society. We can see it. Men at every level of American culture have entitlements about women and their spaces and their bodies and what they're supposed to do. No matter where you are, it's not just, rich dudes who demand that you have brand new implants and lipo lip injections and shit like that. It's not just those guys. It's the garbage man. Not that that's a disrespectful job, but it's just the facts. It's like you got people who let their money work for them, and you got people who trade their time and their body for a paycheck. Those dudes still think that they're supposed to have complete control over their women. I can do shit that you can't do because I'm a man. And
I'm not just a man. I'm the garbage man.
Right.
The garbage man, bitch.
Sex devalues you, but makes me more valuable.
Me a champ.
Right.
It gives me great stories to tell to my friends.
Right. And the men who don't think that, the men who are approaching it from a different lane, we call them betas. And we say that we call them beta cucks and all this kind of shit. And it's like, in society, the way society is shaped right now, I don't think I'm ready to argue in favor of a guy who like strokes his wife's hair while she's getting banged by another dude. So I don't understand it. I don't have the words. I don't have I'm an uncultured swine. I don't have the words to defend that guy and the position that he chose in life. But I'm just saying, the other side, the alternative, is extremely toxic, extremely damaging, and we just accepting it like it's run-of-the-mill regular shit because it works in our favor. So that shit, it definitely needs some examination. I mean, I think I've been approaching it, and I've been doing a lot better. I spent a lot of, me and my wife been together almost 24 years coming up on. So I've evolved over time.
It's your silver anniversary next year then.
Dude, yeah, it's coming up.
25 years.
So yeah, that's serious business, right? and we met. I was 18, 19 years old when I met her. So that's knucklehead. That's classic knucklehead time. And I've definitely evolved. I've always, of course, treated her the best that I possibly could because I wasn't on that I'm the man shit and you're a woman. But I feel like there was levels of emotional intelligence that I wasn't able to really embody until later on in our relationship. There was shit not necessarily about her, but there was shit that I thought I wasn't supposed to do as a dude. And I thought if she saw me do these types of things, or if I went too far in certain places, that it would emasculate me to her. She would think I was less than a man. So there was a lot of space that I didn't cover emotionally, and as far as communication is concerned, when we were younger. And if it wasn't for her fucking graciousness and patience, we may not have made it this far. You know what I'm saying? But that's just something from a person who has been actively trying to be good this whole time. So think about a guy who don't even know anything's wrong with his alignment. He sees no problem at all with it. It's got to be even harder for those women to deal with these dudes. And they think there's no other alternative. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. I know we definitely gonna trigger some masculine energy with this one, but I figured that was gonna happen anyway. I had no idea that this day was gonna land on Valentine's Day. I literally, dude, I hit her up a couple weeks ago and was like, "How about 2 Sundays from now?" Like it just happened. You know what I'm saying? And
it's how it's supposed to be.
Right, of course, it's the universe, bro. The simulation is like, yes, my child, listen when I talk to you.
And look, there'll be a lot of people that want to be in the DMX video, and they'll talk about how gay we are. I've always been okay with that, being the most effeminate man in the group. I'm like, that's fine with me. It doesn't. I don't know, all that hyper masculine shit. It just never appealed to me. Even in playing sports or being in circles where is very much championed and celebrated. I don't know, man. It just always seemed like trying. It seemed like the preacher, condemning the gays. This is how it felt. It's like we're just trying too hard to be masculine. This seems excessive.
When you have a lady waiting for you at home, you out with your boys, you got a lady waiting for you at home, your communication is on point, you're emotionally intelligent, your intimacy is dope, everything is just in perfect alignment, everything's working, and they're trying to shame you. It's the easiest thing in the world to shrug off. It's like, hey, whatever, bro.
But you got to go home and be in love and be happy. That's what you have to do.
Whatever you feel, however you want to feel about it. And I'll see one of your Facebook posts about how women don't understand shit, in a week or so from now, and I'll be home, booed up on the couch, as they call it, watching Netflix, chilling.
Caked up.
Yeah, caked up, son, all the way. It's all good. I feel like that was probably probably the best decision that I made for my life was to focus and do everything I could to make the relationship work, because we live in a society that makes everything seem disposable.
Yeah.
Everything seems replaceable. They don't. It's just not really. We're not socialized to think long term about a lot of things in our life. When I got this house, as soon as a week after we moved in, I had family members and shit talking to me about what we can do to make it better for when we sell it. I'm like, bro, we just got here. What are you talking about selling a house? Everything's disposable. Everything's to get flipped and upgraded. Marriage, we know what marriage means these days. Men are very afraid of it. Shit's getting broken down. You can replace a wife. I got 3 ex-wives. That shit to me was never an option. And that was when I was young. It was never an option to me. We worked hard to get through, because your brain tells you can just throw it away and replace it. Even if you got a kid, it's like, how many men in the world are like, okay, we got a kid, so we have to stay together? Dudes don't give a fuck. They get on with their life, and now it's just a woman out here with a kid trying to meet a new boyfriend or some shit like that. And I just wasn't with it. And from the beginning, I wasn't with it. And everything leading up to today tells me that was the best possible decision I could have made.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think men got a lot to learn right now, and it's going to be part of our job to lay that shit out on the table for them. And really, like, the example is always the best thing, but just be an example of somebody who's not wrapped up in that patriarchal fucking nonsense, bro. I'm willing to do it. I've been doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because I speak openly about this shit. I got a lot of friends who are playboy types and who just out here in the world doing what they do. I don't fucking cut no corners. I don't bite my tongue at all. I don't play them games. I tell them exactly what the deal is, why I am where I am, and why it's the best possible thing for me. So hopefully they learn from that. Hopefully it helps them put shit in perspective, because they all want the same thing. They just don't want to work to have it. They want a woman that comes in ready to process and deal with all their bullshit, still be faithful while he cheats. Like, they just want, but they still want
because she's
the connection.
Not a real person.
Yeah, right. I want my vacuum cleaner to act right. Is basically what I'm saying.
But that's really always at the heart of it. Like, you feel a loyalty to not lie to your dudes, your boys, but you're perfectly there's an understanding it's okay to lie to your girl.
And she gives you sex.
Right. Because she's not a person. It really is. Like, she doesn't have anything about her happiness that she's pursuing. So of course she has time to unravel all my psychological fucked upness that I haven't dealt with. She's just here to compliment and reinforce my happiness, right? Like, that's what
her happiness. That's what you're there for.
Right. Me.
So the happier I am, the happier she becomes.
Right. So it's just, it's not only is it illogical, right? Like, if you really think about it, but it's not practical, and it's so hypocritical in what you're willing to put in versus what you expect to get out of it. So yeah, if you go in with those expectations, I mean, it makes sense to me why everybody feels unfulfilled and why people are so miserable in relationships. And then people think, oh, you see, that's relationships. That's why you're miserable. Not take it into account. It's like, yeah, but look what people were expecting and what they were bringing to the table while they were trying to engage and forge this, path forward with this other human being. Nobody had their shit together ahead of time before you took. And it's hard if you do kind of have some kind of enlightenment, or you are kind of on that path. It's still work, right? So if you don't have any of that prep work done, and you're just like, hey, I'm just kind of tossed about like on, like a wave, and I don't have any direction for any of this shit. All I know is I like things, and I like to feel good, and I like to be happy. Can you go ahead and take care of that for me while I completely ignore anything that may be important to you? Can you just handle that, please, so that I'm happy?
And I'm going to openly complain about anything you find interesting, and we're going to blame it on your unstable emotions, even though I'm the one that's unstable emotionally. Oh, dude. Dude,
It's absurd.
we got some shit to unravel. We've been, like that's why I said it's very similar. I think if we were to find the anthropological historical evidence, I feel like we'd come to some of the same awakenings as we did when we started looking at, race and slavery and who dominated who. Like every people on the front end of it, they look at the way it is now and they're like, oh, this happened and these people have been doing this. It's like, well, let's just look back a little further and see what else was going on. Yeah, I feel like there must have been something where women were in complete power and control, and they had dudes doing some bugged out shit, and dudes just couldn't take it anymore. He was like, I'm fucking stronger. I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this. I gotta fucking do something. We gotta start hitting them or something, guys.
That
We
that
we,
that that'd be,
we
that'd be
gotta
a
start
good
hitting them.
mythology troll, is to
Yeah,
come up with that creation story of how it all started. And really, when you think about the tribalistic race shit, like that's really just a distraction from the brutality of the man to the woman shit. Like, because it's still about dudes thinking about how they should dominate other dudes, and
right,
who
right.
dominated who first, and how we can get back and redominate. You know,
Absolutely, it is, dude. We discovered the original fall of man.
yeah. You're
Wow.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Wow.
We did
That was
that
powerful. That was powerful. That was
on
very
Valentine's Day.
organic on Valentine's Day with our first female guest. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
couldn't have been more perfect.
I can't front. This is the simulation shit I always be about. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. You can't force it to happen, but it'll materialize itself right before your eyes if you're open to it. It's an amazing lesson. Well,
Yeah,
I guess we got some work to do.
yeah. I'm
Foot
gonna.
rubs tonight for all the ladies. Anybody who's listening to this, whenever you hear it, whenever this episode airs, you are obligated to rub a lady's feet tonight with her consent, of course.
With consent, and learn how to cook. If you don't know how to cook,
Oh,
learn how to cook. Feed your
yeah.
girl good food.
Yeah, if you can't cook as a man, you just slipping at this point right now. You bugging, bro. You bugging. You got to be able to cook. That's not even like that's just a human attribute. Like if you, especially if you're a man who expects a woman to know how to cook. If you can't cook and you expect a woman to know how to cook, you're broken. You're broken. Your brain is definitely not working right.
You're in need of healing and some culinary direction.
This is where you can find it, brother. Give thanks. The Cult of Dangerous Gentlemen. We bring you all the dopest breakthroughs, the dopest threads that you can follow to empowerment. That's the bottom line to all this shit is to bridge the gaps, shore up the foundations. We have a higher state of humanity to occupy. We can't just pretend that it's going to come into fruition all by itself. We got to plant these trees. We got to mulch the land. We got to meditate. We got to do everything because we're building it for ourselves, right? It's not just for other people. It's not like we're going to be removed from it. We're building it for ourselves. So this is where you're going to find it. So I definitely appreciate this lesson today, and I'm definitely going to be reflecting on it. I'm gonna have an afterglow from this episode for a few days. I'm gonna be reflecting on this one for a while.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm grateful. I think we should shout her out again at the end and give a plug. You said she's writing a book, so we
Right.
should plug
Right.
that. Let's get in the habit of plugging our guests' work.
Yeah. ifeasa.com. That's IFEASA.com. She makes jewelry. She does a whole bunch of dope shit. She's working on the book right now. I'm gonna keep everybody posted. And yeah, as soon as her book comes out, we're gonna talk about it. The book is called Hues of Blue and Fuck Yous. That's the name of the book. And I actually contributed some art for the cover. So we're definitely going to be keeping everybody logged in with that. And ifeasa.com. Go check her out, throw some love, and yeah, catch us on the next one.
So professional.
We
So
get good
proud.
at this shit, huh?
Well, I think you're getting good. I'll figure it out eventually. Just hang in there.
Oh yeah, man. Always great, man. Enjoy the rest of your night. I'm about to go play some mindless video games right now.
There you go.
But it's good. This was a good day. I appreciate you, bro.
All right, my brother. Peace.
Bless.